One moment, existence ceased abruptly. Everything disintegrated. Structures turned to powder. Individuals started dying one after the other. A plague engulfed the planet. Initially, disbelief overtook all. The financial markets collapsed. Worldwide fear ignited rapidly. Reports circulated everywhere. This was humanity's demise. Conflicts ignited. Countries betrayed each other. Economies fell apart. Hunger devastated the masses. In the midst of deprivation, turmoil escalated. Even a single packet of ramen cost millions of won. Crowds flooded the avenues. They begged. They rioted. It was an apocalypse of incomprehensible proportions. Yet humanity wasn't responsible. Abruptly, mythical beasts invaded Earth. And that marked the end of humanity. Like a fable, as soon as these beasts emerged, people began acquiring extraordinary talents. They transformed into superhumans. Digital alerts started materializing, providing resources to confront these entities. At first glance, it mirrored a recognizable scenario. But here was the deviation. Despite newfound skills, the creatures were pure nightmare fuel. The soul-labeled superhuman abilities were nearly ineffectual. The beasts annihilated humans as if they were insignificant. In under 72 hours, the planet was nearly eradicated. 3 days after the beginning of the apocalypse, the scene shifts to the introduction of a building amidst destruction, surrounded by rubble but intact. The building stands out, a solitary structure amid the wasteland, bearing witness to the chaos that has unfolded. Inside this building there is a man, the protagonist, who is eating some snacks. He reflects while eating that the world has not completely ended, and that is the reason he is still living normally. The taste of the snacks is a small comfort, a semblance of the mundane in a world turned upside down. However, he also reflects that, despite being alive, he is alone in his apartment, without the company of any other survivor, locked in an environment of 100 square meters. The silence of the apartment is deafening, reminding him constantly of his isolation. His mother, father, grandfather, and grandmother are all outside, somewhere in the vast expanse of the destroyed world. He also thinks about the high cost of acquiring the building he is in, stating that it cost 200 million wons, arising from the bank account, and another family belongings totaling 200 million wons. The memories of the sacrifices made to secure this refuge weigh heavily on his mind. The reason he is in this apartment now and alone is explained as being the need for someone to live in the apartment for 2 years to benefit from the purchase taxes. This seemingly trivial bureaucratic requirement now feels like a cruel twist of fate. This is the reason he is living there and ended up being suddenly locked inside due to the apocalypse. While lamenting, he also realizes, to his greater sadness, that his internet connection is very weak. The weak connection is a frustrating barrier, cutting him off from what little interaction he could have had with the outside world. He takes a deep breath, trying to relax, but a strange noise catches his attention. The sudden sound is jarring, pulling him out of his thoughts and back into the harsh reality of his situation. When he looks, he sees a creature flying towards the building and making noises. The sight of the creature fills him with a mix of fear and curiosity. Then, as soon as it gets close to his apartment, the creature violently crashes into the window with enough force to knock down the protagonist even without hitting him. The impact shakes the building and he feels the vibrations through the floor. The creature soon attempts another strike against the structure, and the protagonist protects himself. He braces for impact, his heart pounding in his chest. While he tries to defend himself against a possible monster invasion, the system informs him that it has denied the entry of the creature trying to penetrate the demarcated area. The cold, mechanical sound of the system is a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Thus, the ultimate shut-in system is presented, showing the declaration of the house, stating that no one can enter without the permission of the owner and set perimeter rules. The protagonist, then relieved, remembers that this condition is not new to him. As he gets up, he recalls that this is the reason he is alive and safe. The ability protects him from any creature invasion. The sense of security, however, is fleeting. However, he also remembers, while trying to unlock the door, that not only is the entry blocked but also the exit of anyone within the perimeter of the apartment. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. Enraged, he tries to open it with brute force, kicking the door. Each kick echoes in the empty apartment, a futile attempt to break free. On this third day, where the world succumbs to destruction, he is grateful for the ability protecting him but also laments being completely trapped inside the apartment. Sometime later, sitting and watching the system window, he continues to reflect on this condition of being trapped. The cold glow of the screen is his only company. Irritated, he laments not having the power to do anything about it. The feeling of helplessness is overwhelming. As he looks to the side, he notices that all his supplies are running out and that his refrigerator has lost power since the previous day. The ticking clock of his survival is a constant reminder of his predicament. His only source of energy is some food cooked in pans, which will not last much longer. The realization sets in, deepening his sense of urgency. Suddenly, the system shows a new notification. The unexpected beep of the notification is a jarring interruption. He has hunted a Calican, level 23, and gained a significant amount of XP and some new skills have been added. The notification is a glimmer of hope in the darkness. His attention is entirely focused on the system as he analyzes the reason for this unexpected notification. The details on the screen are a puzzle he needs to solve. Looking out the window, he sees the ground floor, where the bird that had hit his window is lying on the ground lifeless and being attacked by goblins. This makes him realize that the death, even not caused by the animal's impact on the window, made him gain experience after the monster's life ended. The macabre scene outside is a grim reminder of the new rules of this world. The system continues to notify him, saying that a new skill has been unlocked, and resources have been acquired from the surroundings, and these resources are being calculated. The protagonist also notices a change in the goblin's behavior and wonders why. The shifting dynamics of the creatures are yet another uncertainty to navigate. Now, in desperation, the goblins face the monster's death, while they desperately try to scavenge something else. The system completes the resource calculation and informs him that 2,203 wands have been deposited in his wallet. The number on the screen seems surreal. This generates confusion about how this should work. The new reality of his resources is a puzzle he needs to piece together. Suddenly, the apartment's power returns, to the protagonist's surprise. The sudden return of power is a shock, a small miracle in a world gone mad. Everything was now working normally, and the house declaration evolved to level 3. The sense of normalcy, however fleeting, is a balm to his frayed nerves. With the XP gain, the dignity preservation ability was also unlocked, and this is the reason why all the basic resources of the house have been restored. The acquired money is now in his wallet, and the protagonist reflects on the return of the house functions with joy. Running to the refrigerator, opening it with great happiness, and also going directly to the sink to check the water supply, finally going to the electric stove to test its functionality, the protagonist kneels and cries with much joy, saying that everything is normal, just as it was before the beginning of the end of the world. The sense of relief washes over him, a precious moment of victory in the midst of chaos. However, when he picks up his cell phone and tests his internet connection, he notices that the phone is not working. The broken connection is a bitter reminder of his isolation. In frustration, analyzing the place, he notices a flash drive lying on the floor. The small object is a spark of curiosity in his otherwise dreary existence. Quickly, he goes to the computer and analyzes its content. There were photos of his mother holding him as a baby, taking him to school, and also photos of the united family. The images are a bittersweet trip down memory lane. In parks, at birthdays, making him reflective and planting in his head the idea of having to bring his family back no matter the cost. The determination hardens in his heart. Determined, he gets up and goes to the window when he is surprised by another notification. The persistent system, always ready with another twist in his journey. The system informs him that he now has a warehouse, where he can buy items listed at original prices. Intrigued by this new development, he decides to investigate further. Going to check what this store is about, he sees the acquired values being made available and concludes that the confined wallet is directly linked to the values available for use in this store. This realization brings a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this store could offer a way out or at least provide better tools for survival. Thinking about some change in his condition, he goes to the window and laments that he is still confined within the apartment. The view outside, a constant reminder of his isolation, deepens his frustration. Nothing has changed regarding the permission to leave the perimeter, even though his skills and levels have increased. The invisible barrier remains as imposing as ever, a prison wall he cannot breach. However, one thing is certain, increasing levels can unlock skills that may help him get out of this condition. This thought fuels his determination. For that, he needs to hunt monsters. But then the question arises, how will he hunt these monsters? The memory of his past struggles makes him doubt. It will be very difficult for something like before to happen again, where simply a monster hitting the window, falling, and dying would allow him to gain experience and the rewards related to the monster's death. Looking once more at the bottom of the building through the window, he notices that there is a possibility of annihilating some goblins. This discovery ignites a spark of hope. The young man then takes a bottle to test if it will pass through the barrier that prevents him from leaving the apartment. With a mix of anticipation and anxiety, he prepares to throw. As he throws it, he realizes that he succeeded in launching the bottle. The barrier does not impede objects. Thus, he concludes that anything he throws will be useful for his hunt. In this case, he picks up a dumbbell and will try to use it as a weapon. Its weight and solidity give him confidence. Looking through the window searching for potential targets, he notices a bunch of goblins still collecting parts of the previously slain monster. Seeing that some are leaving with parts of the monster, he shouts for them not to go away. His voice is urgent, a command born of desperation. Seeing the urgency, he then throws the first dumbbell through the window. Throwing it and hoping it hits a monster, he watches as the dumbbell falls and accurately hits one of the goblins, killing it. The other goblins around, surprised, cannot comprehend what just happened. The goblins' perception of one of their companions being killed causes the young man to feel frightened, fearing possible retaliation. His heart races, the adrenaline pumping. Realizing that only one dumbbell remains, he reflects on other possible artifacts that can be used in his hunt. He needs to be creative. Artifacts that are strong enough to perform a kill when thrown, even considering throwing the TV or computer. His mind races with possibilities. The goblin screams on the ground floor of the building catch the protagonist's attention, who becomes scared as they howl more and more with the intention of making some kind of counterattack. With the goblins advancing against the building, the protagonist realizes that this may be a good opportunity, as they are now closer, and he will be able to hit his targets more easily. The proximity could be an advantage. To solve the shortage of throwable artifacts, he goes back to the store and activates the function to list items, picking up his last dumbbell and registering it in the store to test the functionality. While scanning the dumbbell, he receives a notification of the artifact's characteristics and also the price registered in the store for the item acquisition. Surprised, he compares the listed price with the price he paid to buy this item online previously, concluding that the price of the items he registers will indeed be the same as normal stores from the period before the end of the world. This realization reassures him. With the item ready and scanned, the system suggests buying the item he just registered. Confirming the purchase, the dumbbell is projected and materialized in front of the young man. He now shouts with joy, considering that everything worked as expected. His plan is coming together. Now the second part, testing the purchased items by throwing them through the window to hit more targets. In the first throw, there is already success as the dumbbell hits a goblin. The thrill of the successful hit fills him with confidence. The system confirms the hit by showing the EXP obtained and the ones from the goblin's death. Meanwhile, the group of goblins watch the lifeless body. Not having much time to lament, they are surprised by more dumbbells falling from the sky, literally, a rain of dumbbells. Some, now smart, try to run to avoid being hit, causing the protagonist to become irritated with the situation and decide to take other strategies. He cannot afford to waste any more time. Buying now 3 dumbbells at once, he quickly uses them, generating more hits and gaining more XP and more one. Now happy, the protagonist is surprised by another notification from the system. The messages keep coming. Now the store would also function as a warehouse, where he can store items for later use. While opening his warehouse, he activates the function to store one of his acquired dumbbells. The ability to store items opens new tactical options. Realizing the perfect functioning of the tool, he rejoices and then thinks of a new strategy to make kills in a more optimized way. His mind races with new ideas. He can now summon items from his warehouse and place them anywhere he wants. Soon, a brilliant idea comes to mind. He will summon the dumbbells outside to fall directly on the goblins. The precision and efficiency of this method are compelling. Opening the warehouse with a large quantity of dumbbells, he watches as all the dumbbells fall towards the goblins, performing an absurd sequence of hits and a flood of system messages with all the kills and ones acquired. The system notifications are a testament to his success. Shortly after finishing his hunt, the protagonist had already acquired and allocated various items in his warehouse. Several of them are food and drinks so that he can stay healthy for as long as needed. Ensuring his survival is paramount. Additionally, he managed to acquire more one by selling the items he used to hit the goblins. The influx of resources is a welcome relief. Suddenly, he realizes that there was a reduction of 1 unit of one. Thus, he begins to reflect on the preservation of dignity ability, questioning if it is responsible for the reduction of someone. He then starts to scan his apartment, meticulously observing the electricity, gas and water expenses. He realizes, with a growing sense of frustration, that the only active thing at the moment is his refrigerator. The thought nags at him, why just the refrigerator? Could it be this is what's consuming the precious resources he so desperately needs? In frustration, he recalls his hunt against the goblins, a memory that brings a fresh wave of irritation. He reflects on how, later, several goblins fled, abandoning their former home, and since then he had managed to hit only 2. His efforts had yielded such meager results, leaving him to wonder if all this exertion was worth it. His mind races as he then wonders if there are other creatures he can hunt out there. Remembering the previous flying monster, a formidable foe that had tested his mettle, he recalls that no similar creature appeared near the apartment since then. This reflection leads him to ponder seeking other methods for his hunt, different strategies that could yield better results. He also wishes to be lucky enough for another flying monster, whose name is Calican, to fly nearby. A beast that had once promised a bounty of rewards if only he could master the tactics to bring it down. Then, almost like a miracle, he notices a Calican flying around the area. His heart races with a mixture of fear and excitement. This could be the opportunity he has been waiting for. Seeing the monster's presence, he then begins to act quickly, thanking God for not abandoning him in this dire time of need. With a metal structure and a mirror attached to it, he uses this makeshift tool he created to attract the Calican's attention. He focuses, aiming carefully, hitting the monster's vision with a precise beam of light. His strategy works, drawing the monster's attention, which advances toward him fiercely. The beast's sudden violent approach, hitting the barrier and knocking him down with a gust of wind, reminds him all too clearly of the previous attack. Happy with the success of his plan to attract the monster's attention, he contemplates the gain of another level with the Calican's kill. The monster, undeterred, then launches an attack with its powerful wings, hitting the protagonist with another gust of wind. With some effort, he manages to remain standing, his resolve unwavering. At the end of the attack, the protagonist looks to where the monster was and realizes with a sinking feeling that it is no longer there. Quickly, the monster reveals its position as if playing a cruel game of hide and seek. It was attacking the building structure, seeking an opportunity to strike the protagonist once more. While the system alerts that an unauthorized entity is trying to enter the zone, the protagonist observes, his mind racing. He wonders if the creature will be strong enough to break the ability's barrier. Opening his storage, he knows the urgency of taking some action. Each second feels like an eternity as he methodically scans his list, reflecting on the calculation of the spoils. He understands that if the spoils are not close enough, they will not be counted. This critical understanding dawns on him, as he recalls how several of the spoils that would come from goblins were not counted. The surviving goblins had removed the bodies of the slain ones to an area beyond where the system could make an accurate count. Leaving the young man extremely frustrated with the thought that this cannot happen again, he makes a determined decision. Reflecting on the possibility of killing the monster with just one strike, he scrutinizes his list of available items and storage. His attention turns to the canola oil, an unconventional choice but one that sparks a cunning plan. He immediately acquires 10 bottles, thinking through each step meticulously. After the system delivers the bottles, he quickly grabs them and heads to the kitchen, his pace quickening with purpose. He picks up a pan and fills it with the liquid from the bottles, setting it to heat. His goal is to heat this oil sufficiently. While that happens, he ties a cloth to a stick, improvising a tool that will serve as part of his plan. Bathing the stick with the cloth in the boiling oil, he then stores the pan with enough heated liquid in the storage. He knows that timing and preparation are crucial. After pouring all the oil into the storage, the system confirms the listing of the item, and the protagonist goes in search of a lighter, which he uses on his stick to ignite it. His weapon is ready. Now at the window, observing the Calican, the protagonist waits for a good opportunity to invoke the canola oil on the bird. He watches, his pulse quickening as the bird starts flapping its wings against the hot oil. Once it begins to descend, the protagonist sets the monster on fire. The flames engulf the creature almost immediately, a sight that fills the protagonist with a sense of grim satisfaction. The protagonist is pleased with the success of his plan while observing the Calican in its final moments. As the flames do their work and the Calican is indeed dead, the system returns the results to the protagonist. It indicates a level increase in abilities and also the unlocking of a new skill while calculating the spoils. With the calculation complete, an additional 9,347,487 won is directed to the confined person's wallet. He, surprised by the large amount of won, did not expect to receive 10 million in a single kill. This unexpected fortune catches him off guard. Now turning his attention to the gain of the new skill called territory expansion, the protagonist suffers changes in his body, making him wonder what is happening. Now, with black eyes and everything around him being seen differently, almost like an X-ray, he tries to adapt to the change. He notices that his eyes scan the entire building structure, revealing the hidden intricacies and finally leading him to 4 survivors in a room in the building. Clearly a surprise to him, as he did not imagine that there would be surviving neighbors so close. This revelation opens new possibilities and uncertainties, his mind racing with potential outcomes. Attempting to understand the situation, the young man, still with his eyes blackened, is overwhelmed by feelings of despair, confusion, and doubt. Suddenly, his eyes perceive the presence of people inside the building in a strange manner, leading him to a single question. What is happening? How is it possible that there are other survivors inside this building? And how does this ability work? As the effects of the ability fade, and while recovering from the changes it caused, the system emits several notifications. These inform that these individuals meet the requirements to become citizens and present a proposal for their acceptance within his jurisdiction. The individuals introduced are Choi Hyung-jun, referred to as Chubby, a 30-year-old husband, Park Hae-won, his wife, also 30, and their daughters Choi Na-yeon and Choi Seo-yeon, aged 3 and 6. Turning to the system, confused, the protagonist questions what would happen if they were not accepted as citizens. He quickly discovers the answer to the doubt. Those who are not accepted as citizens will be expelled from the residential zone. This would inevitably result in their certain death, as they would have no chance against the monstrous threats outside. With this realization, the young man makes the most obvious decision for someone with a good heart. He accepts these individuals as citizens of his zone. The system then confirms the addition of each inhabitant one by one, and the protagonist speculates about the possibility of unlocking new abilities related to managing these people. Consulting the system, more details are gathered, not only regarding these speculations but also about the ability that allowed the detection of the presence of these other beings. The ability is called Ultimate Eyes, and at level 1, it ensures that nothing within his home escapes detection. Learning about this ability, he explores skills related to citizens and finds an option within the system for citizen management. There, a list of all their names is displayed, alongside their current levels and trust scores. Below the list, a population counter shows 4 out of 600. The number is surprising. 600 people is a lot. Diving into the details about Chubby, information is found about awakened skills. Currently none, XP distribution at 0%, and money distribution also at 0%, with options to assign a mission to Chubby or remove him from the citizen list. Data such as XP and money distribution rates raise questions about the possibility of sharing gains with the host of the house, sparking curiosity about how much control there might be over these rates. Could this also be a way to grow stronger? Returning to the system, under the option to assign a mission to Chubby, the system presents a form requesting details such as description, time limit, mission rewards, and penalties for failure. This detail is surprising, especially the need to specify all these elements. In this case, the mission is described as Goblin Hunt, giving Chubby 168 hours to complete it. The reward is a small amount of XP with no penalties for failure. When confirming the mission, considerations are made to alter the form's details, balancing penalties for failure with the mission's complexity and its rewards, even contemplating imposing elimination as a failure penalty. However, back at the confirmation screen, the assignment is cancelled, deemed too dangerous and unfair to arbitrarily decide the lives of citizens. Reflective, the protagonist wonders what should be done with this ability. Then, an idea arises: use Ultimate Eyes again to check what is happening in the room where the citizens are. Observing everything, the family, sitting around a table, seemingly desolate, begins a dialogue with the wife questioning what they can do now. The reasoning behind her question soon becomes clear. Chubby intends to leave the safe zone to search for basic supplies such as water. Though he wishes to stay with his family and daughters, he knows the necessity of obtaining essentials for their survival. The wife shouts that he cannot do this, emphasizing the extreme danger involved. Chubby understands but, given their circumstances, fears they have no other choice. He wonders aloud if there might be any place with at least water. He answers that even if there isn't, it is necessary to try the nearby convenience stores, mentioning one particularly large store that will surely have something usable. Before much reflection, one of the daughters exclaims, "I'm thirsty." The mother, realizing this is not a good time to voice concerns, tries to hush the child, knowing such a statement would act as a trigger for Chubby's decision. Confident, Chubby takes his wife's hand, asking if she trusts him and assuring her he will definitely return safely with something for their family. Saddened, the wife finds no further arguments to stop him. Back in his room, the protagonist ends the ability and reflects on the family's situation. The decision is then made to open the store and check the list of items. It appears that the maximum item storage capacity is limited, and it is wished that this could be expanded. While navigating the skill window, information is noticed showing storage at level 1, dignity preservation also at level 1, and the store at level 1 as well. Observing the levels of each item, there is a sense of relief. If there are levels, there must be a way to increase them and, consequently, enhance the capacities of these abilities. With points available for immediate upgrades, the store's level is raised to 2, increasing its capacity by 20 items. Additionally, the system applies a 10% discount to the total price of all used items. The protagonist, with enthusiasm, evaluates the given data and wonders what to do with the 2 remaining points. He considers investing in the shop or in the preservation of dignity, recognizing that these skills might help him encounter more citizens in the future. His shop, now at level 3 with a maximum capacity of 40, also has a new function, item recovery. This function enables him to restore old items and turn them into new ones. This was undoubtedly an excellent choice. Without further ado, he visits his shop again to acquire water and some fruits. With the remaining points, he decides to allocate them to other skills, particularly the preservation of dignity. Still at level 1, the choice to upgrade is based on the ability to request various things in return if he provides energy and water. With the preservation of dignity skill at level 2, he can now register vassals, leaving the protagonist puzzled about what vassals might be. The scene shifts to the living room where the family is gathered, and Chubby is seen preparing for his journey. Looking back, his wife and daughters appear distressed, wishing he would reconsider before it's too late. However, Chubby responds with a display of affection and protection, promising that he will return and asking the children to protect the house while he is away. The children ask if he really plans to go, and he responds as if it's a simple task, saying he is merely going to fetch some food and water. He also requests that they obey their mother in the meantime. The eldest daughter, however, knows it won't be that simple. She cries and screams about the monsters outside. Her memories take over, revealing details of day 1 of the apocalypse. The children had been playing in a sandbox in a park when monstrous creatures suddenly appeared, catching their attention. Terrified, the children stood up and started running in panic. While running, their father grabbed the youngest in one arm, desperate to survive, while their mother carried the other child so they could all reach safety faster, pursued by goblins. Now determined, the father swallowed his apprehensions, resolute in his decision. The mother tried to comfort the children to stop them from crying, making the father's decision even harder. He reflected on the possibility that this might be the last time he would see his daughters, trying to remain strong in front of his family. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, startling everyone and preparing them for a potential confrontation with monsters. Gathering his courage, the father cautiously checked the situation while hearing someone on the other side of the door asking to be let in. The voice from the other side caused surprise and doubt. Could it really be a person? Chubby wondered, but he didn't rule out the possibility of a cunning monster. As the voice continued from the other side, he prepared for a potential confrontation, noticing a sudden silence. Pondering whether the monster had left, he was startled when the door suddenly opened. Quickly, he turned to his family, holding them in hopes of protecting them from a possible threat. Everyone screamed, and the father begged for mercy for his wife and daughters. Amid the cries, a calm voice asked for permission, completely breaking the tension and prompting everyone to finally look at the one who had knocked. It was the protagonist holding a bag of items, creating a pleasantly surprising moment for everyone. The question, "Who are you?" arose naturally. Then the protagonist's real name, Kim Jae-hyun, was revealed, although he would henceforth be known as June. After introducing himself, he explained that he lived nearby. Handing over the bag of items, he informed them it contained water and fruits, requesting a small conversation once everyone was settled. Both happy and apprehensive, the father looked at his family, seeing the worry in their eyes, and declared that there was no reason to refuse, given June's sincere demeanor. He then invited June into the house. Once everyone was seated, the children stared at the visitor with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. June wondered if the children were shocked by his arrival but quickly turned his attention to the dark curtains covering the windows. He considered this an intelligent choice, as it significantly reduced the risk of monster attacks. However, the darkness necessitated light. To address this, June activated his skill, restoring power to the room where they were conversing. While organizing items in his bag, the family, still in shock, was astonished by the return of power to their apartment. June then decided to interact with the family by offering water to everyone, starting with the children. Chubby expressed gratitude and distributed the water bottles to his daughters, who eagerly quenched their thirst. Shaun, the youngest, drank her bottle so quickly that she choked, briefly worrying her mother. June observed and promptly offered the little one a tangerine, which she accepted with slight hesitation. The mother stepped in, requesting that Shaun hand over the tangerine so she could peel it. Taking a piece of the fruit, the mother returned it to her daughter, who quickly devoured it, expressing immense joy as she savored it. The mother asked if it was good, and Shaun enthusiastically confirmed. The elder sister then asked the mother for a piece as well, which she also enjoyed, showing similar delight. For June, the system notified him that the citizens' trust levels had increased. It reported that Shaun's trust score had reached 50 points and her loyalty level had exceeded 30 points, meeting the requirements for her to become a vassal. Now at level 2, Shaun, with 57 trust points, no skills and no XP or money allocated, had new options available for missions to be assigned by June. He then reflects that this little girl has met the requirements. However, she is still too young to receive missions. Another thought that crosses June's mind is that the number of registrable vassals is highly limited compared to the number of citizens. Therefore, he needs to be very cautious in selecting vassals to avoid filling these slots carelessly. Looking at Chubby, whose trust level is at 31, June realizes that this score must be raised further. While contemplating, he is interrupted by Chubby, who asks if there is a way to repay June for his actions toward the family. June invites Chubby to talk in the hallway. Surprised, Chubby agrees and both move outside the room. Once outside, June asks Chubby if he received the invitation to become a citizen. Chubby checks his notification window and confirms that the entire family received this notification about 30 minutes ago. June then inquires if anything strange or unusual occurred during that time. Chubby confirms, explaining that they were immobilized for a short period. June understands the situation and assures Chubby that soon his life will return to normal. Shocked by this statement, Chubby questions whether such a thing is possible. June confidently replies that it is entirely possible, thanks to his ability. Chubby processes this information and then remarks that he knows such actions would never come without a cost. He asks what he should do. June explains the possibility that while on the mission given to him, Chubby might lose his life, and he asks if Chubby is truly willing to proceed with what is being asked. After a brief moment of reflection, Chubby firmly confirms his readiness to do whatever is necessary, stating that he had already been considering stepping out of his comfort zone to seek food and water before June's arrival. Chubby declares that he was already prepared to risk his life. Suddenly, June interrupts to ask about the golf club Chubby is carrying, curious about its cost. Confused, Chubby replies that the club cost around 400,000 to 500,000 won. Reflecting on this price, June considers it expensive and realizes the importance of saving money for future acquisitions. Chubby, still puzzled, questions the abrupt inquiry. June dismisses it as unimportant and shifts the conversation, asking if Chubby remembers the day the monsters first appeared. Chubby recalls the weekend when the monsters emerged, chasing them, and recounts the horror of that moment. June reflects that those who stayed inside their homes might have survived the attack. Considering that goblins are not very strong and their conditions are unfavorable compared to those of an adult man, June notes their primary advantage lies in their strategy of always attacking in groups. However, humans also have the strategic capacity to form armies, and an army is precisely what June intends to build from this point forward. Starting with Chubby, who will be the first member and will join June in finding other survivors. Sometime later, back in his apartment, June analyzes the system, which notifies him that his trust level with Chubby has risen further. Checking his list of citizens, the system displays Chubby's trust level at 40 points. Reflecting on having an entire family as citizens, June considers the possibility of his own family being added to this list as he continues to develop the system. Suddenly, a goblin screech catches June's attention. He gets up and goes to the window to investigate the commotion. Looking down, he is surprised to see other people fighting against a large number of goblins. Contemplating how he could assist and how challenging it would be, June formulates a plan while observing the goblins' assault on the group of humans. One individual, armed with a baseball, prepares a powerful throw at one of the attacking goblins. The ball strikes the goblin's face, knocking it out instantly. The attack's force sends the goblin flying, its skull bursting into a fountain of kaiju-like blood. The sheer power of the blow leaves June, watching from above, utterly astonished. Meanwhile, another member of the human group, a young woman, fires 2 arrows simultaneously from her bow, each striking the chest of a different goblin. Beside her, another man wields a baseball bat, targeting the goblin standing between the 2 struck by the young woman. The man leaps and smashes the goblin, reducing its body to a green pulp. The remaining goblins, fearing for their safety, decide to flee, realizing the group's overwhelming strength. The archer, still on alert after the battle, notices something strange moving and quickly aims her bow at the object. She soon realizes it is a food package, causing her confusion. June, shouting from the building's top floor, finally catches her attention. She looks up, noticing the man frantically gesturing and yelling to attract the group's notice. Suddenly, someone knocks on June's door. Looking through the peephole, he sees that it is Chubby carrying a box. June invites Chubby to enter the apartment with the box. Following June's instructions, Chubby approaches the entrance but discovers that the system's barrier prevents him from entering. The system makes it clear that Chubby is not qualified and therefore cannot access the apartment. Chubby questioned what it meant to be not qualified. June wondered if the system would prevent anyone from entering his apartment at that moment. He also speculated whether registering Chubby as a vassal might resolve the issue. However, he decided to postpone addressing the matter of entry and instead focused on receiving the box, which contained items that could be used as weapons. Upon receiving the box, June placed it on the floor, opened it and examined its contents. Inside there was a toolbox and several knives. June activated the system, accessed the store, and ordered 5 bottles of water and 5 packs of instant noodles. As the store projected June's order, Chubby watched in disbelief, amazed at how such a thing was even possible. Without dwelling too much on the situation, June packed all the requested items into the box and handed it back to Chubby, instructing him to take the box to the building's entrance on the 1st floor. Chubby accepted the box but questioned whether this task might be too dangerous. June replied that, based on his brief observations, the goblin's behavior became more active during daylight hours. He also thought to himself that the people fighting downstairs could be vital additions to his group of citizens. The food box would serve as the primary tool for earning their trust and loyalty. Speaking aloud to Chubby, June revealed that he had a plan and emphasized the importance of delivering the box to the 1st floor. Chubby questioned the simplicity of the plan, asking if it really was just about leaving the box on the 1st floor and returning. June confirmed that it was indeed that simple. Relieved, Chubby agreed to carry out the task, bidding June farewell as he left with the box. June thanked him as he departed. Opening the system's interface, June reflected on the need to reward Chubby's trust generously. The mission menu described the task: delivering the box containing water bottles and instant noodles to the 1st floor and returning within 24 hours. The mission offered a small amount of XP as a reward, with no penalties for failure. Chubby received the notification and realized he would gain experience upon completing the mission. He wondered aloud if this was somehow related to a leveling system like in a game. June confirmed this and revealed that Chubby's current level was 9. If Chubby leveled up, he would receive rewards. June assured Chubby that he was relying on him, and Chubby, understanding his task, promptly made his way toward the 1st floor. Armed with the box and a golf club for protection, he cautiously descended the stairs. Finally reaching the 1st floor, his mission was to place the box on the ground. However, before he could act, he noticed movement nearby. The sudden motion startled him. He suspected it was goblins and grew alarmed as darkness was beginning to set in. Panicked, he decided to flee. Yet, in his haste, he twisted his ankle and fell, causing the box of supplies to spill across the floor. Items scattered everywhere, and Chubby, now lying on the ground, desperately tried to regain his composure. As the creatures drew closer, Chubby instinctively shielded himself with his arms and shut his eyes tightly. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. Opening his eyes, he saw a group of humans approaching, asking if he was okay. While in June's apartment, the system issued an alert about an unauthorized attempt to enter. June began to wonder what it could be, speculating that it might involve an invasion by the group. Activating his ultimate eyes ability, he scanned the building and noticed Chubby with a group of people, leading them as they conversed among themselves. The group questioned how it was possible for someone in the building to throw a package of noodles. This raised their hopes, thinking the building might have an abundance of food while they were on the brink of exhaustion. Deactivating his observational ability, June recognized everyone in the group. The system then notified him that they met the requirements to become citizens and proposed adding them. However, June realized the risks of accepting outsiders as members of his group. He also considered the possibility that these people might reject his offer to join, which made him anxious and stressed. While contemplating the best course of action, June was interrupted by Chubby's voice calling out from nearby, trying to communicate with him. Responding to Chubby, June received a system notification indicating that this citizen had an ongoing mission. The system suggested editing the current mission, which June confirmed. The updated mission now included delivering meals to the newcomers. After confirming the changes, June and Chubby exchanged updates on the situation. June instructed Chubby to immediately gift the newcomers some food, as June had a plan in mind. Chubby agreed and followed the plan. When the group reached the barrier of June's safe zone, they had to wait while Chubby explained the situation. Reporting back to June, Chubby detailed the group's status, which June received positively. He then accessed the system and initiated invitations for the group to become citizens. The system sent invitations to Ha Donggan, Kang Deoksu, Kim Gaeong, Yu Hyerin, Kim Jian, and Moon Byunggo. Once permission was granted, all new group members entered the safe zone. The system announced that the citizen count had increased to 10, granting a 10% bonus to XP and monetary rewards. June felt a surge of gratitude toward the newcomers, knowing their presence would be crucial for future monster hunts. The system updated the trust scores and levels for the new members. Dong with 19 trust and level 23, Kang with 28 trust and level 13, Young with 17 trust and level 17, Yu with 30 trust and level 10, Kim with 15 trust and level 15, and Moon with 11 trust and level 10. June noticed Dong's higher level and speculated that he might be stronger than Calican, a foe June had recently defeated. Examining Dong's stats further, the system highlighted a skill called Baseball Throw, ranked at D. This ability consumes stamina to triple the power of thrown objects like baseballs. June concluded that Dong was a metahuman capable of turning baseballs into lethal weapons. He recognized Dong's potential as an indispensable ally for monster hunting. To strengthen their bond, June planned to gradually build Dong's trust. June instructed the system to set the group's XP sharing to 70%, which the system confirmed. He then began assigning hunting missions to help the newcomers gain XP and resources. June likened his strategy to an auto-hunting system in games. Beyond logistics, June acknowledged the importance of establishing personal relationships with the group. He believed a good rapport was essential to eventually locating and reuniting with his family. Unexpectedly, the system notified him that the trust scores of Dong, Young, and Yu had increased, leaving June surprised and curious about the cause. The scene shifted to Chubby's apartment, where he invited the group inside. The archer, Gaeong, expressed her gratitude. Chubby's wife, confused by the situation, questioned what was happening. Chubby reassured her to stay calm and promised to explain soon. He also requested that she prepare food for everyone. Initially startled, Chubby's wife pointed out that there was no food ready and that everything would need to be made from scratch. Chubby urged her to proceed, explaining it was part of June's plan. After some hesitation, she agreed and began cooking. Han, previously referred to as Dong, expressed his gratitude and shifted his focus to Chubby, asking about June. Chubby admitted he didn't know much about June, except that he was their neighbor. Surprised, Han listened as Chubby described June as someone mysterious yet immensely resourceful, providing them with everything they needed. Han concluded that June must be a metahuman, possessing the extraordinary ability to solve everyone's problems with essentials like food and water. Determined to make a good impression on June, Han believed that June's abilities were almost miraculous. Chubby informed the group that they could take a shower while waiting for the food. The female members were stunned by the idea of taking a shower amidst the chaos. Han observed that, given the building's functional resources, such luxuries were indeed possible. Chubby elaborated, mentioning the availability of hot showers, leaving the women speechless. Chubby added that there were 2 showers available for simultaneous use. Another group member, who bore a resemblance to Toji, jokingly suggested challenging June to a fight. Han immediately dismissed the idea, calling it absurd and emphasizing the importance of impressing June instead. The group agreed on the need to prioritize securing food, recognizing this as a rare opportunity that couldn't be wasted. They turned their attention to Moon, who appeared lost in thought. Han gently touched Moon's shoulder, snapping him back to reality. When Han apologized for potentially upsetting him, Moon reassured him that nothing was wrong. Han began expressing regret over a past decision, but Moon interrupted, affirming that every choice had been consensual and there was no need for remorse. The group collectively strategized about obtaining supplies for Moon's grandmother. However, Moon internally lamented that it might already be too late for her. As Han discussed their plan further, the sound of the door opening startled everyone. Han readied a baseball in his hand, prepared for confrontation, but quickly realized it was June. June's presence radiated warmth and reassurance, instilling hope in the group. They felt certain that June was the key to lifting them out of their despair. A few minutes went by and they sat in silence around the table. The atmosphere was tense until Haiwan, a fatty's wife, feeling the strain, finally spoke. She apologized for how cramped the room was. Han, striving to be courteous, replied that it was fine. Since they had arrived unannounced, it didn't bother them. Just then, Fatty entered the room and announced that the food was ready. One by one, Fatty placed bowls of rice before them. They could hardly believe they were about to enjoy a real meal and began to wonder when they had last eaten something proper. Haiwan, feeling slightly awkward, hesitated before admitting she wasn't sure if the food she had prepared would match their tastes. What seemed like a simple meal to Haiwan left the group's archers stunned with admiration. As she stared at the dishes laid out before her, she couldn't contain her amazement. She told Haiwan that the food was incredible, confessing it had been a long time since she had eaten something so delicious. Haiwan, shyly brushing off the compliments, explained that it was all thanks to the ingredients Seo Jun had provided. She admitted that, without Seo Jun's help, she would have only been able to serve rice and tangerines. Meanwhile, Seo Jun noticed that Haiwan's trust level had reached 50. He smiled quietly to himself, reminded of his mother, who always beamed with joy when guests praised her cooking. But as the thought lingered, he realized with some surprise that Haiwan's trust had surpassed Jun's. Later on, they all started eating, expressing their gratitude to Haiwan for the meal. Haiwan and Fatty watched as their guests eagerly enjoyed the food, eating as though they hadn't had a proper meal in ages. The archer couldn't stop complimenting the egg roll, while another girl remarked to Haiwan that the style of the egg seemed Japanese. Haiwan smiled warmly, agreeing and politely encouraging her to enjoy the meal. At that moment, Haiwan's youngest daughter called out to her, capturing her attention. The little girl wanted to eat the egg rolls too, but Haiwan gently explained that she would make more for her after the guests left. This made her daughter a bit sad. Noticing this, the archer asked Haiwan's daughter if she'd like to share the egg rolls with her. The child's face lit up immediately, her excitement brightening the room. She quickly ran over and climbed onto the archer's lap, her happiness obvious. The archer smiled warmly, delighted by the little girl's enthusiasm. The child eagerly announced she was ready, and the archer picked up a piece of egg roll, softly asking Seoyin to open her mouth. As the archer fed her, Seoyin beamed with joy, her smile lighting up the moment. Seo Jun then suggested that Fatty and Haiwan join them, assuring them there was enough food for everyone. The two exchanged a hesitant glance, unsure at first, but eventually smiled and agreed, happy to join the gathering. As they all shared the meal together, the room filled with laughter and cheerful conversation. Seo Jun took a quiet moment to reflect on the warmth of the scene. The lively noise reminded him of how long it had been since he had experienced something like this. His thoughts drifted to memories of his mother and the care she had always shown. A soft smile spread across his face as he silently hoped his family was safe and well. Time passed and soon the food was gone, leaving behind only empty dishes. Haiwan's youngest daughter, now tired, mentioned she wanted to rest. Haiwan gently lifted her and asked her eldest daughter to follow her to their room for bedtime before leaving the table. Moments later, Seo Jun decided it was the right time to get back to business. He turned to the guests and suggested they continue their earlier conversation, questioning why they couldn't reach the grandmother's house despite its close proximity. Han, his expression serious, explained that it was due to the goblins. Seo Jun raised an eyebrow, doubting whether it was truly goblins, recalling his own struggles when he had first encountered them. Han nodded, affirming it was true. He elaborated that the goblins had discovered an underground parking lot and had turned it into their base, hiding there. Seo Jun's curiosity deepened, and he asked if they had any idea how many goblins were down there. Han, with a somber look, answered that there were several thousand goblins in the underground area. Seo Jun paused, thinking carefully. He realized that his abilities only worked effectively from ground level to level 30, meaning they wouldn't be as useful in the underground parking lot beneath the building. Suddenly, it all made sense to him. This was how the goblins had infiltrated the area. Han continued, explaining that the underground parking lot was connected directly to the entrance of the apartment building they needed to reach. The goblins had turned it into their stronghold and rarely ventured outside. Seo Jun, remembering the nearby side roads, asked Han about them, recalling there were alternative paths they could have taken. Han nodded, admitting that their initial plan was to use the side roads to escape, but they had encountered something far worse than the goblins. Intrigued, Seo-jun pressed Han to explain what could possibly be more dangerous than an army of goblins. Han recounted seeing a massive shadow, describing it as resembling a bear. He explained that they had managed to escape the apartment building because the bear had been fighting the goblins, providing a brief window for their escape. Seo-jun, considering how to deal with such a large creature, asked Han for more details. Han confessed that he wasn't entirely sure it was a bear, as the darkness had obscured his view. Seo-jun stated decisively that eventually, they would have to face both the goblins and the shadowy figure. Han agreed but looked down, acknowledging that their group had limitations and wasn't equipped to handle both threats simultaneously. Seo-jun, curious about these limitations, asked for clarification. The archer spoke up, explaining that both she and Han relied on items like arrows and baseballs for combat, but they were running low and couldn't replenish their supplies easily. Despite the challenges, Han remained composed and suggested he could find a solution. He asked to inspect their current weapons, the arrow and baseball. Without hesitation, the archer handed over her equipment. The system then prompted Seo-jun, asking if he wanted to list the new items. Seo-jun agreed and the system began scanning them. Moments later, it displayed the cost to replicate the items. When asked if he was certain, Seo-jun confirmed. Seo-jun glanced around the table and asked if everyone could use the archer's weapon. The group nodded silently, understanding there was only one available. Seo-jun took their silence as agreement. Turning back to the system, he requested 5 sets of the archer's weapon and arrows. The newly created items appeared on the table, and Seo-jun addressed the group, encouraging anyone unfamiliar with weapons to take this opportunity to learn. "These will be your primary weapons from now on," he stated firmly. As the items materialized, the system notified Seo-jun that several members of Han's group had increased their trust in him. Meanwhile, Moon's gaze was fixed on the weapons. He couldn't help but marvel at Seo-jun's resourcefulness, realizing that with Seo-jun on their side, they might actually save his grandmother. The system confirmed that Moon's trust in Seo-jun had grown significantly. Han broke the silence, commenting that with Seo-jun's support, their hunting speed would improve dramatically. Another girl chimed in, noting that Seo-jun's assistance would make their tasks safer, as they wouldn't have to risk themselves to collect arrows anymore. Seo-jun then gathered everyone's attention and announced that before they could move forward, they needed to reduce the number of goblins in the area. Han agreed and asked when they would begin hunting. Seo-jun replied decisively, "Tomorrow?" Han seemed hesitant, questioning the urgency, but Seo-jun explained that the sooner they acted, the better their chances of success. Han eventually nodded, though he still appeared uncertain. Seo-jun turned to Moon and assured him, "Tomorrow we're going to rescue your grandmother." Moon's face lit up with hope and excitement at the thought of seeing his grandmother again. Han, still wary, voiced his concerns about how they would manage with so many obstacles in their way. Seo-jun smiled confidently and revealed his plan. "We'll use a bait strategy to lure the goblins out." After Seo-jun spoke, everyone at the table turned their attention to him, waiting for more details about his plan. Han and the archer girl remained pensive, wondering if the idea could truly work. The boy with glasses voiced his concern, saying the plan would only succeed if everything went exactly as planned. As they deliberated, the system notified Seo-jun, revealing that the mission previously assigned to Fatty had been completed. Along with the notification came a reward of 30,000 won. Reading the message, Seo-jun was surprised. He hadn't realized that payment was given for every completed mission. To be certain, he read the notification again and it was confirmed. Seo-jun quickly realized that, with money, he could assign missions to his citizens, allowing them to level up. In other words, the more money he had, the more power he could accumulate. Closing his eyes, he thought about how, while this seemed like a strong long-term strategy, he hoped not to rely on it too heavily for now. The system also informed Seo-jun that Jun's trust had increased to a total of 50 points, unlocking a new status, loyalty, which surpassed 30 points. Meeting the minimum requirements, Fatty transitioned from being a simple resident to becoming a vassal. The system displayed Jun's updated stats and attributes. He was now at level 9 with a trust level of 51 points and loyalty at 62. However, he had no awakened skills and 0% shared XP or money. After carefully analyzing the information, Seo-jun decided to register Fatty as his first vassal. As a result, a blue aura began to emanate from Jun, who started feeling sudden changes in his body and broke into a sweat. The system notified that the first vassal registration was successful, unlocking a new skill for Seo Jun called Summon Vassal. This skill allowed Seo Jun to summon the vassal within his house, although it came with a cooldown of 2 hours after use. The system updated Jun's stats again, revealing that he had reached level 20 and gained the title of First Servant. Additionally, he awakened his first skill, Gorilla Strength, a Tier C passive ability that granted him superhuman strength. The system further explained that, thanks to the First Servant title, all XP and gold earned by Fatty through hunting would be shared. Lastly, the system revealed that Seo Jun could use the Ultimate Eyes skill to summon the vassal within a 5-meter radius of his house. Seo Jun noticed a plus symbol beside Jun's level and wondered what it did. Upon pressing it, he discovered it was a feature to increase the vassal's level at the cost of 1 million won. Shocked by the exorbitant cost, Seo Jun exclaimed that it was far too expensive for a single vassal skill. Seeing his expression, the woman at the table asked what was wrong. Seo Jun brushed it off, saying it was nothing, and turned his attention back to Jun, asking how he was feeling. The focus shifted to Jun, who stated that his strength was overflowing, with his veins visibly pulsing. He asked if this transformation was Seo Jun's doing. Seo Jun confirmed with a nod. Jun, looking at his hands, remarked that it felt as though his body had become 10 years younger. Seo Jun smiled proudly and suggested that Fatty join the rescue mission team, handing him a bow. Fatty looked confused by the gesture. Seo Jun explained that the mission was assigned because vassals earned double the rewards of regular citizens. In a commanding tone, Seo Jun instructed Fatty to defeat as many monsters as possible. Fatty nodded in agreement, prompting Seo Jun to smile and express his trust in him. Outside the house, on the first floor, the rescue team began their search for survivors. The boy holding a baseball bat questioned whether it was necessary to search the first floor, but Han reminded him that it was Seo Jun's order. The rescue team embarked on their first mission, to locate all survivors in the building and lead them to the 30th floor. The crucial part of the mission was to draw out a large number of goblins for elimination while rescuing as many survivors as possible. The boy with the baseball bat acknowledged the plan, and the group pressed forward. Han, shouting to keep the team alert, emphasized that goblins could appear at any moment or from any direction. As they continued their search, they had yet to encounter any survivors or goblins. While guiding the team, Han noticed something unusual. Some members of the group couldn't believe their eyes. Several lifeless bodies were sprawled across the floor, victims of the goblins. The sight filled the team with sorrow and rage, intensifying their hatred for the goblins. But they couldn't afford to stop. Determined, they pushed on to the second floor. On the second floor, the situation was catastrophic. Lifeless bodies lay scattered across the ground, leaving the team horrified as they continued to the third floor. Upon reaching the third floor, everything appeared to be calm. The team leader knocked on the doors, calling out to see if anyone was inside. The rest of the team followed suit, hoping to find survivors. After several unsuccessful attempts, the team lowered their heads, burdened by a sense of sadness. However, the boy with the baseball bat refused to give up, encouraging the team to press on to the next floor. On the fourth floor, they resumed knocking on doors, announcing themselves as the rescue team. Suddenly, a door creaked open, revealing a man with a tired expression. He asked if they were truly part of the rescue team, mentioning that he was extremely thirsty and begging for water. Han quickly pulled out a bottle and handed it to him. The man, still skeptical, asked again if they were really from the rescue team. Han reassured him, confirming their purpose and explaining that, as a resident of the building, he was helping to lead all survivors to a safe location. The man seemed surprised to hear this. He closed the door momentarily but reopened it shortly after, revealing 2 others inside the apartment. Introducing himself as Hong Young-soo, he stated that he would rely on the team. Han introduced himself as well, expressing his hope for good cooperation between them. Han then introduced the girls on the team and instructed them to escort Hong Young-soo and his group to the 30th floor before returning to continue the mission. Hong Young-soo hesitated, questioning the safety of the 30th floor and expressing his reluctance to leave. His son, however, admitted he had been hoping for a rescue and suggested there might even be a helicopter waiting for them. The girl clarified there wasn't a helicopter but assured them there was hot food and the chance to take a bath. Hearing this, Hong Jung-soo's daughter became excited, marveling at the idea of taking a bath even in the midst of the apocalypse. The girl chuckled and confirmed it would be a warm bath. The daughter eagerly turned to her father, urging him to stop hesitating and go with them. Reluctantly, the man gave in to his children's wishes. Shortly afterward, the system notified Seo Jun that the total number of citizens had increased to 40. Along with this, their XP and gold had increased to 90%. Sometime later, it is shown that the mission was a success, and they managed to rescue several people. The elderly and children were taken to Fatty's house, where everyone seemed happy. The younger members stayed in the hallways. Han confidently confirmed that there were now a total of 40 people, with no one missing from the search. Seo Jun thanked everyone for their excellent work. Seo Jun then activated his skill, Absolute Eye, causing his eyes to turn black as he carefully observed every movement his citizens were making. He saw them carrying chairs, working with cables on the stairs, hauling ropes, and even climbing the stairs with a very heavy object. After ending the skill, his eyes returned to normal, and smiling he told Han it was time to begin phase 2 of the goblin hunting operation. Now in the hallway, Han, alongside the other members, called for focus and explained the plan and how it would work. Everyone listened patiently as Han detailed how they would lure out all the goblins hiding in the basement. Initially, they would start on the first underground floor, B1. The group would divide into 2 teams with the goal of attracting and clearing out the goblins on B1. Afterward, they would proceed to B2 to eliminate all the goblins there as well. A boy with glasses raised his hand and voiced a question. He asked what they would do if more goblins appeared than anticipated. He also mentioned that if the goblins counterattacked, the bodies on the floor might obstruct their escape. The archer and Han, confident, assured him they could handle all the goblins on their own since they now had plenty of arrows, unlike before. The boy with glasses nodded in agreement and said he trusted them. Suddenly they heard a strange noise. Turning toward the source of the sound, they noticed a small group of 3 goblins ready to attack. Without giving the goblins a chance to make the first move, the archer drew her bow and with 2 quick shots hit the heads of 2 goblins, leaving only one alive. Without hesitation, the man with the bat charged forward and with a single blow, smashed the remaining goblin's head. The 3 goblins now lay lifeless on the ground. The boy with glasses questioned the man with the bat, asking why he was using the bat when he had previously said he would need a bow to defeat goblins. The senior admitted they were right. Meanwhile, the archer pointed to the goblin bodies, noting that they were disappearing shortly after being defeated. The newcomer wondered if this phenomenon was also a skill of Seo Jun. Han declared the mission on that floor complete and announced they would now proceed to B1. The newcomer, still lost in thought, remarked that he had expected Seo Jun to have a solution for dealing with the goblin bodies. The system then alerted the group that the citizens' trust was increasing. The scene shifted to Seo Jun, sitting calmly and opening a bottle while a series of system windows appeared in front of him. He found the moment quite enjoyable. He remarked that it wasn't intentional but reassured himself that he was still keeping an eye on everyone. The system sent another notification showing that Moon's trust had reached 50, unlocking loyalty. The loyalty stat had surpassed 30, meeting the conditions for registration. Seo Jun was surprised by how quickly he had achieved these stats. However, he noted that the faster this happened, the better it would be in the long run. Sitting on the floor and staring thoughtfully at the system window, Seo Jun reviewed Moon's stats, 55 in trust and an impressive 88 in loyalty, along with other attributes. Seo Jun was surprised by the 88 loyalty but remained calm, considering it a positive outcome. With an ironic smile, he pressed a button on the system window, declaring that the time for retention registration was complete. Back in the basement on B1, the entire group was fighting fiercely against the goblins. Suddenly, the newcomer began to emit a blue light, similar to what Fatty had done before. Holding his bow, Moon, the newcomer, was stunned as lightning surrounded him. The other group members were equally shocked, questioning what was happening. Even the goblins were confused, unable to see due to the intense glow radiating from Moon. After revealing his red eyes in the darkness, it was also shown that the goblins couldn't withstand the brightness emitted by the newcomer, leaving them momentarily blinded. Han shouted that he didn't know what was happening, but it was an opportunity they couldn't afford to miss. Part of the group quickly ran to create distance, while others stayed behind to eliminate the goblins using their bows from a long distance. Both archers had deadly accuracy, aiming only for the goblins' heads. The archer, visibly furious, performed a swift maneuver that took down several more goblins. Seeing what had just unfolded before them, the goblins became enraged and charged forward to attack. Despite the number of goblins they had already killed, their numbers only seemed to increase. While running, the group realized the sheer aggressiveness of their opponents and remarked how they hadn't expected them to be so relentless. The archer shouted, ordering everyone to retreat to the emergency stairwell, while the man with the baseball bat speculated that all the goblins from the B2 floor had likely converged on their current location. Reaching the emergency stairs, the group ascended frantically without daring to look back. To slow the goblins' advance, Han held the door shut. One of the goblins managed to wedge its hand through the gap and sarcastically asked if Han was holding the door by himself. Hearing this, the boy with glasses and the man with the bat joined Han to push the door shut. The goblins, however, were slowly forcing the door open. While the group struggled, they admitted it was getting increasingly difficult to hold it shut due to the overwhelming number of goblins. Suddenly, a voice from behind reassured them of help. It was Fatty, using the gorilla strength ability Seo Jun had granted him earlier. As he channeled the ability, Fatty single-handedly held the door and managed to block the goblins' advance. Han asked if he would be okay and Fatty urged them to hurry up the stairs. Despite his superhuman strength, Fatty was sweating and straining to hold the door with all his might. He focused and declared that it was his duty, one he had to fulfill. Finally, Han called out to him, letting him know everyone was safe and telling him to come up the stairs as well. Without hesitation, Fatty turned his back to the door and began running up the stairs. However, midway up, he tripped on a step and fell to the ground, just as the goblins were about to catch up to him. Lying on the ground and almost within the goblins' reach, Fatty shouted at his friends to leave him behind and continue the evacuation. While Han hesitated, trying to decide what to do, someone suddenly and without hesitation rushed down the stairs to help. It was the boy with the baseball bat who, with a single powerful swing, smashed the goblin threatening Fatty. He called out to Jun, urging him to hurry, and extended a hand to help. Still on the ground, Fatty tried to crawl closer to his rescuer, but one of the goblins managed to grab his leg. Before he could even react, Fatty vanished without a trace, leaving his savior stunned and speechless, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Looking ahead, however, the goblins continued advancing in an unrelenting horde. Suddenly, one of them leaped toward the boy with the bat, but he swung his weapon and struck it down mid-air. Meanwhile, the other group members provided support with their bows, urging Deok-su, the boy with the bat, to move faster. Running in desperation as the goblins closed in, Han and the archer shouted frantically, pleading with him to hurry. Clutching his bat and without looking back, Deok-su pushed forward, racing up the stairs. Meanwhile, outside, under a full moon, the scene unfolds. A monstrous bear-like creature with glowing red eyes effortlessly devours a goblin, whose agonized screams pierce the night. With every passing second, the creature exudes a sinister aura, finishing its gruesome meal of the small goblin. Its sharp fangs and blazing eyes make it clear that its hunger is far from sated. It growls, declaring it wants more. From behind the beast, eerie screams echo, a sound that should not exist in the stillness of the night. Turning around, the creature notices the noise is coming from a massive building behind it. Coincidentally, the top floor of the building is still illuminated. The creature's bloodlust intensifies as it snarls, proclaiming that it will devour everyone in that building. In a sudden twist, Fatty is seen falling from a swirling purple portal. Don't worry, our Fatty didn't die. Instead, he was teleported to safety using Seo Jun's ability. Seo Jun, who had been observing from afar, pulled Fatty out of danger just in time. Fatty lands on the ground in a clumsy hero's pose, feeling relief despite his confusion about what just happened. Seo Jun, standing nearby, remarks, "That was close." Fatty rubs his eyes to make sure he's not imagining things and sees Seo Jun offering his hand to help him up. Seo Jun explains that, just in case, he kept an eye on the situation using his Absolute Eye ability. He's glad to see that the Vassal Summoning ability worked perfectly. As Fatty tries to stand, he notices a sharp pain in his leg. It's then that he realizes the goblin had managed to cut him when it grabbed hold of him earlier. He hadn't even noticed how fast it happened, given the brief struggle. Seo Jun immediately asks if Fatty is okay, but Fatty brushes off his concern, insisting that the wound will heal faster than he thinks. Seo Jun, however, notices a shortage of medical supplies in his inventory and mentions that he should register some medicine to the system as well. He asks Fatty not to overexert himself and to wait for a moment. Though confused, Fatty agrees. Inside, Seo Jun searches for medical supplies and finds a first aid kit. Looking at it, he recalls how essential medicine is in situations like this. The sight brings back memories of his childhood with his mother, leaving him momentarily deep in thought. Opening the kit, he discovers it contains far more than he expected. Sitting on the floor, he examines the items and mutters that his inventory has only 40 slots left, but there's still so much to register. After a brief moment, he has an idea. he decides to register the entire kit instead of the individual medicines. The system initiates the registration process, scanning the kit. A system notification pops up, confirming that it's a standard first aid kit valued at 77,331. Without hesitation, Seo-jun accepts. Back in the corridor, Seo-jun brings the first aid kit to Fatty, who notices Seo-jun's genuine concern for someone he barely knows. Kneeling down, Seo-jun asks to examine the goblin-inflicted wound. Fatty rolls up his pant leg, revealing a cut near his calf. With a pair of tweezers and a cotton ball in hand, Seo-jun warns that he's going to disinfect the wound first. Carefully dabbing the cotton onto the cut, Seo-jun works meticulously, though Fatty winces in pain. Despite this, Fatty reassures Seo-jun that he can endure it. The system promptly notifies Seo-jun that Choi Hyung-jun's, Fatty's, trust level has increased, along with his loyalty. After partially cleaning the wound, Fatty thanks Seo-jun for his care. Seo-jun, while packing the first aid supplies back into the kit, expresses his concern for the others. He stands and instructs Fatty to rest, explaining that he has something important to attend to. Fatty nods and agrees to follow his boss's orders. Seo-jun closes his eyes, focuses, and activates his ultimate eyes ability. His eyes darken as he scans the building, allowing him to see everything happening within. Back at the emergency stairs, Deoksu, also known as Toji the baseball bat wielder, is desperately fleeing from the relentless goblins. The archer, with her impeccable aim, provides support, taking out goblins with perfect headshots that would make anyone envious. Han and the guy with glasses try to help Deoksu create distance from the goblins but shout in frustration that they can only handle one goblin at a time, urging Deoksu to run faster. Toji sprints as fast as he can, but the goblins remain undeterred, chasing him with tireless persistence. From behind an improvised barricade, the support team fires arrows that was dangerously close to Deoksu, but every shot lands perfectly on the pursuing goblins. Deoksu finally reaches the end of the staircase and, with a leap, crosses the barricade. However, in a moment of carelessness, two goblins manage to jump and lunge at his back, catching him off guard. Instinctively, the rookie Moon charges forward with a shout, determined to protect his comrade. With a single powerful blow from his bow at close range, he takes down the two goblins that had pounced. Moon stands with a serious expression, his eyes glowing blue and filled with determination. Without hesitation, he leaps back into the stairwell, plunging straight into the swarm of goblins. Han is left speechless. Delivering rapid, precise strikes, Moon significantly thins the goblin horde as Han and Toji watch in awe. The rest of the group, witnessing the scene, asks in disbelief if Byung-go Moon had always been this skilled in combat, remarking that his actions are utterly insane. From afar, Seo-jun observes everything and comments that the rookie is doing exceptionally well. The system screen appears, displaying Moon's status. For reference, his full name is Moon Byung-go, and he holds the title of second vassal. His confidence level is 55, and his loyalty is 88. He possesses a teleportation ability that consumes mental energy to move within his line of sight. The mental energy cost increases with the number of companions and the distance traveled. With a sly smile and darkened eyes, Seo-jun remarks that registering Moon as a vassal was a brilliant decision. Back at the stairwell, goblins are being decimated by Moon, each of his blows striking their heads with deadly accuracy. Han asks Jiana, the guy with glasses, if the extension cord is ready. Jiana, holding it firmly, replies that it is. Han then checks if the water tank is prepared. The archer and the baseball bat wielder confirm its readiness. Moon, realizing he has to retreat, sprints toward the barricade as Han yells at him to hurry up. With a swift jump, Moon lands safely behind the barricade. For a brief moment, the goblins believe the group has simply fled. But moments later, a massive water tank appears above the barricade. The tank is tipped over, drenching the goblins and flooding the emergency stairwell with water. The goblins, initially confused, think it's merely a stalling tactic. Han shouts that this is the perfect opportunity, and Jiana flips the switch. An electrical surge travels down the now-soaked stairwell through the wires they had previously laid, electrocuting all the goblins that had been pursuing them. Seo-jun's system screen notifies him that he has hunted numerous goblins of varying levels, including some at levels 6 and 7. Another notification pops up, showing that Seo-jun has gained significant XP and earned a total of 334,464 won, which has been deposited into his account. Additionally, his skill level has increased, and a new ability has been unlocked. While using his ultimate eyes ability, Seo-jun suddenly feels a strange pressure. A sharp pain begins to spread through his body, causing him to writhe in agony. Upon closer inspection, a purple wave expands outward from him, covering an increasingly large area. The purple energy travels through the building, the stairwell, the parking lot, and even the goblins chasing his friends. The purple wave appears to function as a scanning mechanism because Seo Jun's ability screen indicates that hostile entities have been detected. After the scan, the system declares that the hostiles will be eliminated. As the energy wave dissipates, the goblins begin to deform, screaming in agony. In an instant, their bodies explode, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The system notifies Seo Jun once again, confirming that he has defeated numerous goblins, including several at levels 6 and 7. Not long ago, some goblins still hadn't given up chasing the group and continued climbing the emergency staircase. One of the goblins sensed something was amiss. A chill ran down its spine as it realized something was following them as well. Turning around slowly, it was greeted by an enormous shadow, its reaction one of pure shock. As it focused, it saw the silhouette of a massive bear approaching from behind. Before the goblin could even think, the bear, with sharp fangs and glowing red eyes, let out a deafening roar. In the blink of an eye, before the goblin could react, the bear attacked, biting near its neck. The goblin screamed in pain, drawing the attention of all the other goblins, who stopped and turned to see what was happening to their comrade. By then, the bear had already eliminated the first goblin and had begun attacking the others with its enormous claws. The first goblin was struck down, followed by another and then 2 more. The bear was making effective use of both its claws and teeth. Despite the bear's massive size, the goblins noticed they outnumbered it and decided to fight back. They surrounded the bear and launched their attack. Some jumped onto its back while others distracted it from the front. Quickly, the bear used its claws to knock off the goblins clinging to its back, but this left it vulnerable to more attacks. The goblins lunged at the bear, biting it with their sharp teeth. One managed to grip near its eyes while another bit into its back. The enormous beast tried to resist, striking nearby goblins with heavy blows, but their sheer numbers overwhelmed it, allowing them to attack from all sides. Using their sharp claws, they aimed for the bear's eyes, and just as they were about to blind it, all the goblins' heads suddenly exploded in an instant, likely due to Seo Jun's domain expansion. Now terrified and confused, the bear realized it was safe. At the same time, a system notification appeared, indicating citizenship had been granted. Exhausted from the grueling battle, the bear seemed to shrink in size. It began twisting its neck in an unnatural way, its body contorting strangely. Then it started to transform, revealing a human face emerging from its furry body. Finally, the bear's true form was revealed, a stunning woman with brown hair and eyes. Weakened from the intense fight, she collapsed in the parking lot, surrounded by the bodies of the goblins. Meanwhile, as Seo Jun writhed in pain while using his ultimate eyes ability, like a surveillance camera, he noticed the woman's unconscious body on the ground. He wondered who she was. A system notification identified her as Yanju, level 33, with 9 trust points and an awakened A-rank ability called Werbear. This ability allowed her to transform into a beast, enhancing all her physical capabilities and granting powerful regenerative properties. Seo Jun's eyes widened as he realized this woman possessed an A-rank ability. Additionally, the system revealed that both Dongan and Harem had reached 50 trust points, unlocking their loyalty. The notification also stated that Deoksu's loyalty had reached 30, meeting the requirement to be registered as a vassal. Seo Jun quickly decided to register Deoksu as a vassal. Deoksu, now at level 25 and holding the title of third vassal, had 52 trust points and 31 ability points. Upon awakening, he gained a B-tier ability called Iron Knight, which allowed him to summon full steel armor and a halberd. Seo Jun, deep in thought, deduced that a vassal's level is determined by the rank of their awakened ability. He recalled that Fatty had awakened the strength of the gorilla, a C-rank ability, and was at level 20. Deoksu's Iron Knight was a B-rank ability, placing him at level 25. Moon's A-rank teleportation ability had placed him at level 30. Seo Jun concluded that when a vassal is registered, their level corresponds to the rank of their awakened ability. Yet, one question lingered: is the ability selection random like a roll of the dice? He wonders if Moon received an A-rank ability due to his loyalty. If that's the case, then Fatty, who has higher loyalty, should have awakened a B-rank ability instead of a C-rank one. This thought becomes even more puzzling considering that Deoxu, the baseball bat wielder, has only 31 loyalty yet already possesses a B-tier ability. Still deep in thought, Seo-jun remarks that understanding the conditions for obtaining higher-ranked abilities is crucial. It's an important question to answer. Since the number of vassals is limited to just 10, it's advantageous to select individuals with the highest potential rankings. He then reflects on whether there are any differences in accepting someone who has already awakened as a vassal. The system displays that an awakened individual can move freely through staircases, hallways, and elevators. Seo-jun decides to take action and walks toward the elevator. As he approaches, he activates his ultimate eyes, his gaze darkening. Meanwhile, the woman remains unconscious on the parking lot floor, near the goblins' lifeless bodies. Seo-jun calls Fatty, who arrives quickly, and instructs him to head to the parking lot. He asks Fatty to bring the woman from the second level of the parking structure back to their floor. While this unfolds, the team on the emergency staircase is dismantling and recovering the materials used for the electric trap. Deoxu, feeling relieved by the goblins' sudden defeat, asks his friends if they know why the goblins exploded so suddenly. The bespectacled man speculates that it was likely someone's doing. Han, sweating nervously, realizes that such a powerful skill could only belong to one person. The way the goblins were dealt with so effortlessly leaves no doubt in his mind. It must have been Seo-jun. He recalls that when he first met Fatty, Fatty mentioned that Seo-jun was a bit of an enigma. Han also remembers Fatty talking about hot baths, which amazed the girls, and how the ingredients for their meals had also been thanks to Seo-jun's ability. Reflecting on all this, Han grows more unsettled by Seo-jun's overwhelming power, convinced that the mysterious skill must be his. As Han coils the wires around his arm, he glances at Moon and recalls how he used to be an introvert, someone who changed drastically after meeting Seo-jun. Realizing the terrifying scope of Seo-jun's abilities, Han thinks to himself that being saved by Seo-jun means being chosen by him. Back in the parking lot, as the elevator reaches the ground floor, Fatty dashes toward the unconscious woman. He quickly picks her up and heads to the 30th floor as instructed. All of this is observed by Seo-jun through the surveillance-like view of his ultimate eyes, while Han silently contemplates how being saved in this world seems to hinge on being favored by Seo-jun. A flashback is revealed, showing a small toy car. A child was playing with it in a park while being watched. The boy was filled with joy, calling out to his mother to watch what he could do. The woman from the parking lot, Yeonju, was his mother. She smiled at him genuinely, encouraging him. As the child stood up and waved to his mother, something appeared behind him. The genuine smile on the mother's face turned into an expression of horror. She froze, overcome with terror. A group of 3 vile goblins surrounded the poor boy, who was innocently waving at his mother. She tried to act, summoning all her strength, but she wasn't fast enough. The goblins attacked the boy, leaving her helpless to stop them. All she could do was weep as the sight of her son's final moments was burned into her memory. All that remained was the toy car the boy had been playing with. Trapped in a nightmare, Yeonju suddenly woke up, startled by the painful memories. She looked to her side and saw Seo-jun, who called her by name. He watched her lying down and she sat up on the bed, her head throbbing. Seo-jun extended his hand and introduced himself, saying it was a pleasure to meet her. Ignoring his introduction, she asked him if he was the one who did it. Surprised, Seo-jun hesitated, unsure what she was referring to. Quickly she clarified, saying he knew exactly what she meant, the thing that made the goblins' heads explode. Seo-jun froze in a moment of hesitation, and his hand began to tremble. Gripping his hand to steady himself, he admitted that, yes, he was the one who had done it. Yeonju started thinking, realizing how immensely powerful he must be. Someone with such a neutral expression could wipe out an entire horde of goblins in an instant. Fearful but hopeful, she thought that if he could do something so incredible, then maybe. She began trembling, her thoughts racing. Finally, she begged him, pleading for him to save her child. Through her tears, she cried out, asking him for just one day to bring her son back. As she finished her plea, Seo-jun looked at her, seeing her face soaked with tears, an expression of unbearable pain. It was the face of someone who had their child ripped away. Still crying, she said she missed her beloved son terribly. Seo-jun clenched his teeth, anger boiling within him as he realized she had lost her son to those wretched goblins. Yeonju sobbed so hard, trembling and unable to speak coherently through her hiccups. Seo-jun stood there, frozen, wondering if there was truly nothing he could do. He decided to try issuing a mission through the system. Hunt down 1,000 goblins with no time limit and no penalty for failure. The reward would be the resurrection of her child. Lost in thought, he wondered if such a thing was even possible. The idea filled him with apprehension. But then the system notified him that the mission couldn't be issued. Frustration surged through him as he realized resurrection was beyond his current capabilities, even with his powers. The system explained further, stating that a resurrection required a tremendous amount of power and resources. Then another notification appeared. There weren't enough funds to cover the resurrection mission's reward. It suggested trying again after increasing his funds. Seo Jun was stunned, his jaw dropping in disbelief as he read the message. Resurrecting someone might actually be possible if he had enough money. Overwhelmed with excitement, Seo Jun shouted at the system, demanding confirmation. Could he truly bring someone back to life if he had the funds? Returning to the room, he saw Yeonju still crying. He realized he had no idea how much it might cost to resurrect someone, nor could he even begin to guess. But knowing the possibility existed, he decided to act. He called out to Yeonju, who quickly looked up, wiping her tear-filled eyes. With a serious expression, Seo Jun told her that he thought he might be able to help her. He explained that there might be a way to bring her son back. Upon hearing this, Yeonju feels a sense of relief. Though not a certainty, the idea that there might still be hope offers her comfort. Still crying, she grips the bedsheet tightly and asks if what he said is truly real or just a cruel joke. Seo Jun reassures her that he would never joke about something so serious. However, he explains that while it is possible, it cannot happen just yet, and she nods in understanding. He adds that he doesn't know exactly how long it will take, but there is definitely a way. Yeonju turns to him, saying she'll do whatever it takes and asks what she should do to make it possible. Seo Jun considers the situation. With Han's group, which now includes Moon, Toji and Fatty with their awakened abilities, they already have a strong team. Adding Yeonju, a level 33 fighter, would make them capable of handling most monsters. He thinks the best course of action is to transform all 7 of his minions. Changing his expression to a smile, he asks Yeonju to get up, saying he'll introduce her to some people. Shortly after, Han introduces himself, and Yeonju politely returns the greeting. She then asks if he's the one who was throwing baseballs to hunt goblins, which startles Han that she knows about that. Yeonju also turns to the archer, saying she recognizes her too since she was shooting arrows at the goblins, leaving the archer equally surprised. Nervous, the archer asks how Yeonju knows her. Yeonju, growling and mimicking claws with her hands and sharp teeth, asks if they really don't recognize her, saying they've met before. Toji, the archer, and Han look confused about her growling while cute bears appear in the background. Deciding to clarify, Yeonju begins transforming. Gradually, fur starts appearing on her body as she focuses. Her bear form becomes evident, complete with a snout and brown fur. The archer, shocked, points at her and asks if this is actually happening. Now a massive bear stands in the room before the group. Still pointing, the archer exclaims that it's the beast they saw in the alley earlier. Yeonju, laughing awkwardly, corrects her, saying it's actually a bear, not a beast, leaving the archer dumbfounded. The bear woman explains that she had helped them deal with the goblins a few times before, though they hadn't realized it until now. Looking at the giant bear in front of him, Han remarks that their meeting wasn't a coincidence after all. The bear woman confirms this, saying that anyone who opposes the goblins is a friend of hers. At that moment, Seo Jun arrives and interrupts their conversation, stating that it's good they're already acquainted. With a serious expression, he says he has something important to announce. Seo Jun explains that after thinking it through, they'll execute the plan to rescue Moon's grandmother tomorrow. The group listens intently as he informs them that the number of goblins has drastically decreased, making this the perfect opportunity for the mission. He adds that Fatty will sit out this mission due to his injuries and mentions that he borrowed Fatty's room, as Fatty lost his bed to the bear woman. Seo Jun then announces that Yeonju, the bear woman, will join them on the mission. She nervously thanks him for the opportunity and says it's a pleasure to meet everyone. Concluding the meeting, Seo Jun tells them to prepare for tomorrow morning. The group, filled with determination, agrees to the mission without question. Afterward, Seo Jun calls Toji and Moon aside for a private conversation in the hallway, leaving them feeling uneasy. He reassures them not to worry, saying it'll only take a moment. Under the full moon in the hallway, Seo Jun asks if they know why he called them there. Both Toji and Moon look startled, unsure of what he's referring to, though deep down they might have an idea. The two were caught off guard by the sudden question and visibly startled. Toji hesitated and admitted he wasn't sure, while Moon spoke up, asking if it had something to do with the powers they had recently acquired. June smirked sarcastically and replied, "Yes, it's about your powers." He went on to explain that both of them had awakened abilities this time, leaving them shocked at how perceptive their leader was. Seo Jun explained further, revealing that Moon's newly obtained ability was teleportation. This excited Moon, who was eager to learn how to use it. As for Toji, his ability was named Knight of Steel, which left him curious about what it could do. Jun's expression shifted to one of seriousness as he considered the situation. He realized he needed to understand how both their abilities worked before they embarked on the mission the next day. Deep in thought, he opened the system screen to analyze their progress. He issued a mission to both of them: demonstrate their newly awakened abilities within 1 hour. The reward for success was increased strength, while the penalty for failure was having to sleep in the corridor. The system confirmed the mission parameters, and Jun found himself intrigued by these team-oriented challenges. As Jun mulled over the situation, Toji, unable to contain his enthusiasm, called out, asking if it was true that he had awakened a new ability. Jun confirmed with a nod. Toji's excitement was palpable. Snorting with exhilaration, he exclaimed how great it was, but then asked about the Knight of Steel ability, curious about its specific capabilities. Jun explained that it allowed Toji to summon a steel suit of armor and a halberd. Before Toji could ask further questions, since he was used to wielding a baseball bat, a blue light suddenly materialized beside him. The light was Moon's teleportation ability activating. In an instant, Moon vanished, leaving Toji stunned by how quickly he had picked up the skill. For a few seconds, Jun and Toji exchanged wide-eyed, speechless glances, both trying to process what had just happened. Moments later, Moon reappeared in the corridor, slightly wobbly as he landed. Looking down at his hands, Moon's face lit up with excitement as he marveled at the functionality of his power. Clenching his fist, he declared, "With this power, rescuing my grandmother will be a breeze." The system notified Seo Jun that Moon's confidence had increased, along with a rise in his loyalty. Overcome with gratitude, Moon bowed deeply to Jun, thanking him for everything he was doing. The gesture took Jun by surprise. After a moment, Jun urged Moon to pause and carefully assess the situation. "Even though you've managed to use your powers," Jun explained, "going to your grandmother's house right now is impossible." Moon, puzzled, asked why that was the case. Jun patiently elaborated that there was no guarantee he could fully control his ability, even though it had worked once. "It's possible you just got lucky," Jun said, causing Moon to lower his head in disappointment at the realization that rescuing his grandmother would have to wait. Jun reassured him, saying, "For now, we'll figure out the maximum range of your teleportation and determine if there's any penalty for using it multiple times." Moon nodded silently in agreement. As the conversation continued, they noticed something unusual happening down the corridor. Turning to investigate, they saw a knight clad in gleaming steel armor wielding an enormous halberd. Toji's eyes widened in amazement as he realized the sheer magnitude of his power. Ecstatic, he couldn't help but comment on how well the ability suited him. The system then notified Jun that Toji's confidence and loyalty had also increased. While Toji celebrated, swinging the halberd to test its weight, Jun called Moon over. Pointing toward a nearby building, Jun asked if Moon could test his teleportation by attempting to reach it. Moon studied the building carefully, gauging the distance and calculating the effort it would take to make such a leap on only his second try. Finally, he turned to his leader and said, "I'm not sure I can make it, but I'll try." The system presented a new mission: teleport to the rooftop of Building 113 within 3 minutes. The reward was an improvement to Moon's teleportation ability, while the penalty for failure was having to sleep outside. While focusing intensely, Moon positioned his hands in a stance resembling a Kamehameha to channel his energy for teleportation. In the background, Toji cheered him on enthusiastically, offering words of encouragement and telling him he could do it. After aligning his thoughts and gathering his energy, Moon opened his eyes. In that instant he vanished once again, enveloped by a burst of blue light. The force of his ability was so intense that Toji instinctively shielded himself from the shockwave. Moon reappeared on the rooftop of the other building, landing in a dramatic superhero pose. However, his face contorted in pain, and his eyes turned completely white. From his new vantage point, Moon felt a wave of relief knowing the teleportation had worked. Looking across at his friends, he waved to ensure they saw him and shouted that everything went as planned. The system notified Jun, confirming that Moon had successfully completed the mission. Seo Jun let out a sigh of relief and smiled, praising Moon for his impressive and quick mastery of the ability. Moon, still waving happily, basked in the moment. But suddenly, without warning, Moon's strength gave out. His eyes rolled back and he collapsed unconscious on the rooftop, leaving him vulnerable. Both June and Toji froze in shock, their previous excitement quickly replaced by concern. Everything had been going so well, until it hadn't. Acting swiftly, June used his ability to summon a servant, bringing Moon's unconscious body back to their corridor. Moments later, they laid Moon down in one of the beds to let him recover. "Is he going to be okay?" Toji asked anxiously. June, studying the system's readout, reassured him, "Yes, he's just unconscious. The teleportation ability took a lot out of him." He explained that with enough rest, Moon would be fine. The system confirmed that Moon was healthy and in a deep sleep. June added, "This probably happened because he's not used to using the ability yet." Relieved, Toji sighed and said he was glad to hear it. June then shifted the focus. "Now it's your turn," he said, surprising Toji with the sudden declaration. "Wait, my turn?" Toji asked, caught off guard. The system displayed Toji's mission: perform 100 push-ups and 100 squats while wearing the steel armor. The time limit was 10 minutes and the reward was increased strength. The penalty for failure? Sleeping outside. Without hesitation, Toji began the exercises, starting with the push-ups. Clad in his heavy steel armor, every movement required an incredible amount of effort. Sweat poured down his face and dripped onto the floor as he pushed himself to the limit. Determined, he moved on to the squats, completing the second half of the mission with gritted teeth and unwavering resolve. When he finished, Toji stood tall, exhausted but triumphant, shouting, "Mission accomplished. I did it." The system confirmed his success, notifying June that Kong Deoksu, Toji, had completed the mission. Breathing heavily, Toji leaned against the wall to catch his breath while June observed him, impressed. With a body like his, so athletic and resilient, it's no wonder he has such endurance, June thought to himself. Suddenly, the system displayed a new message, something June had never seen before. "What's this?" June muttered, his eyes narrowing at the unexpected notification. As he studied the screen, Toji asked, "Is that really all for the mission?" June nodded, smiling warmly. "Yes, great job. You can go rest now." The system finished calculating and displayed a notification. Toji's strength had slightly increased. Turning to June, Toji expressed his gratitude. "Thanks for taking the time to help us. I really appreciate it." June, surprised by the sudden notification and watching Toji feel the changes in his body, noticed a new sense of energy radiating from him. Looking at his own hands, Toji clenched them into fists, feeling the power coursing through his veins. "This reward changes everything," he said with a confident smile. The next day, somewhere in a dark alley in Busan, Han screamed in desperation, urging everyone to run. The group scattered, fleeing for their lives as a ferocious horde of goblins pursued them. Toji, however, stopped running and turned around, his fury evident. Assessing the situation, he decided to act. The goblins, focused on their chase, were suddenly blinded by a brilliant light shining in front of them. As they adjusted their vision, they saw a towering figure clad in a steel suit of armor wielding a massive halberd. Without hesitation, Toji charged forward and struck the nearest goblin, impaling it with his halberd in one swift, powerful motion. Then Toji unleashed a flurry of diagonal strikes in rapid succession, cutting down goblins one after another. But the goblins, fueled by rage, refused to give up and surged forward with a determined attack. Expecting a direct assault, Toji braced himself, but the goblins cunningly outmaneuvered him, slipping past to target the more vulnerable backline. In an instant, arrows struck the goblins' heads in swift succession, ending their rampage permanently. Toji turned to see what had happened and spotted Moon wielding a bow and arrow. "Don't worry," Moon called out confidently. "I'll handle any goblins that get past you. Focus on the ones ahead." Gripping his halberd tightly, Toji turned back to the remaining goblins. A smirk spread across his face as he responded, "Got it?" Seeing Toji's renewed focus, the goblins froze, hesitating in their attack. One by one they began to retreat, turning back to where they came from. Frustrated, Toji yelled at them to come back and face him. As the goblins retreated, terror gripped them when a massive shadow appeared before them. It was the bear girl, her glowing red eyes piercing through the chaos. This was her dramatic first appearance, emerging from an ambush prepared for the retreating goblins. The goblins had no choice but to surrender to their fate, collapsing in despair and lamenting their past misdeeds. The group showed no mercy. Moon's arrows flew with precision, Toji's halberd struck powerfully, and the bear girl slashed through the goblins with her razor-sharp claws. Together they defeated the goblins one by one. Seizing the opportunity, Han shouted to Moon, "Now's your chance. Go." Moon, understanding the urgency, broke into a sprint toward his grandmother's house. "Thank you, Han," he called back as he ran, grateful for the opening created by his comrades. Meanwhile, the system notified Seo Jun that the citizen Moon had completed his mission. A pop-up appeared, stating that it was now evaluating the missions Moon had completed. Back in the comfort of his room, Seo Jun sat with his ultimate eyes ability activated, observing the system screen while slurping on cup noodles. The system pinged again, declaring the evaluation complete and awarding him 132,966 won, which was deposited into his Shutin's wallet. Jun paused mid-bite, stunned by the reward. This time it was actual money. Returning to his meal, Jun reflected on the situation. When Toji completed his mission, the reward had been strength, suggesting that additional rewards were now randomized. It makes sense, Jun thought. The missions are getting harder, so the rewards should scale with the difficulty. The system chimed again, confirming that Moon had completed all the missions available to him for the day. It also announced it would begin evaluating the rewards for Moon's completed tasks. The assessment concluded instantly. Still savoring his noodles, Jun grinned and said, "All right, let's see what the reward is." The system congratulated him for hitting the jackpot. For those unfamiliar, it clarified that a jackpot is the maximum prize accumulated in games of chance like slot machines or lotteries. Reading this, Seo Jun froze, momentarily stunned. Paralyzed with anticipation, he stared at the screen, waiting to see what incredible reward the jackpot would bring. Still staring at the system notification, Jun remained frozen in shock, his cup noodles stuck in his throat as he tried to process what the jackpot could possibly be. Then the system displayed the reward, a skill point granted as part of the jackpot. Upon reading this, Seo Jun's lips curled into a satisfied smile. This was perfect. He could choose exactly where to use the point. Back on the streets, Moon sprinted toward his grandmother's house at such an incredible speed that a faint blue aura trailed behind him. As he drew closer, exhaustion crept in, sweat dripping down his forehead. His mind raced with anxious thoughts. What if something had happened to her? Upon arrival, the house came into view, a small, simple home, completely unprotected against monster attacks. There were no barriers, no fortifications, just an ordinary house standing vulnerably amidst the chaos. Moon didn't hesitate. He rushed to the door and pushed it open, but a deep fear clawed at his chest. Frantically, he dashed through the house, checking every room as he called out, "Grandma, where are you?" Then he reached the bedroom. His eyes widened in shock. There she was, lying on a futon mattress, peacefully asleep, far calmer than Moon had ever imagined she would be. Cautiously, he approached, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Grandma," he whispered, shaking her lightly, hoping for any sign of response. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered open. Her voice was faint and drowsy as she murmured, "Who is there?" She reached out, her frail fingers brushing against his hand. "Moon, is that you?" And at that moment, ninjas cutting onions must have passed through the room, because Moon's vision blurred as he choked up, his chest tightening with overwhelming relief. Tears streamed down his face. His body trembled as he sobbed uncontrollably, overwhelmed by the sheer relief that she was still alive. Unable to hold back, he threw his arms around her in a warm, desperate embrace, whispering apologies between his sobs. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry it took me so long to come back for you." Despite his tears, the old woman smiled kindly and patted his back. "You're such a brave and kind boy, Moon. I knew you would come for me." At that exact moment, a system notification appeared in front of Seo Jun. Moon's loyalty had reached 100. Moon was now officially registered as a vassal. The number of available vassal slots had increased. Jun squinted at the system window in confusion. What's this? Apparently, reaching a certain level of trust unlocked an additional vassal slot. The system then displayed his current vassals. Choi Hyungjin aka Fatty, level 20, Moon level 30, and Kang Deoksu aka Toji level 25. Scratching his chin, Jun was taken aback. Wait, so I can level them up too? Curious, he decided to check how much it would cost to upgrade Moon's level. He tapped the plus symbol next to Moon's name. A new notification popped up. Insufficient funds to level up. Then another window appeared, showing the required amount. 100 million won is needed to upgrade Vassal Moon to the next level. Jun's jaw nearly hit the floor. His hands clenched into fists. 100 million won? His face twisted in frustration as he rubbed his temples. That's insane. Just for one vassal? With a sigh, he ran a hand through his hair and lightly punched the table. I'm sorry, Moon, he muttered under his breath. I'll make it up to you by assigning you missions every single day. At that moment, a noise snapped June out of his thoughts, his senses going on high alert. The elevator was moving. His brow furrowed. Who the hell could that be? His comrades were still out in the streets, fighting goblins. Narrowing his eyes, he activated Ultimate Eyes. His pupils darkened as his vision extended, scanning the entire building. Two people stood outside one of the apartment doors. A man and a woman. The man carried a box on his shoulder, while the woman knocked on the door, asking if anyone was inside. Something felt off. Their expressions weren't exactly friendly, and their dark under-eye circles hinted at exhaustion or something more sinister. June immediately recognized the apartment. Inside was Fatty's wife. From the other side of the door, she hesitated. Hearing the knocking and voices, she called out cautiously, "Who is it?" Assuming it was urgent, she made a quick decision and opened the door. Standing there was the young woman, who greeted her with a bright smile. "Hello," she said cheerfully. "I'm Kim Dabin." Then she gestured toward the man beside her. "And this is my younger brother, Kim Miho." She continues, mentioning that they live in unit number 1701. Intrigued, Fatty's wife asks what brings them there. The girl sighs, explaining that she only came because she desperately needed help, leaving Fatty's wife wondering what kind of help she could possibly need. Then, with a sudden burst of desperation, the girl blurts out, practically shouting, "Would it be possible for you to let me take a shower?" Fatty's wife is completely caught off guard. Her jaw drops. Of all the things she had expected to hear, this was the absolute last. Still trying to process it, she blinks in disbelief and asks if she heard correctly. "Did you really just ask to take a shower? And that's all you need?" The girl nods eagerly. "Yes, that's all. I just want a shower." Relieved that the request wasn't anything too complicated, Fatty's wife lets out a small chuckle and waves them inside. "Well, that's easy enough. Come in." The two enter, expressing their gratitude. The man, still carrying the box on his shoulder, also thanks her before asking where he should put it. Curious, Fatty's wife asks what's inside. As he places it down on the floor, the girl, still grateful, explains that it's just canned food and some miscellaneous supplies. The man opens the box, revealing various types of canned goods, exactly as she had said. Seeing this, Fatty's wife smiles and thanks them, mentioning that they really didn't have to go through all that trouble. The girl waves it off. "It's nothing really. If you think about it, I just walked into a stranger's house and made a pretty weird request." Just as she finishes speaking, something catches her attention from the corner of her eye. She turns her head slightly, her gaze landing on the collection of bows lined up against the wall, alongside Toji's baseball bat. Curious, she can't help but ask, "Do these bows and that bat belong to the owner of this apartment?" Fatty's wife wasn't expecting that question. Still, after a brief pause, she shakes her head. "No, actually. These don't belong to the apartment's owner. The real owners live in another unit, but it's kind of a complicated situation to explain in just a few words." The girl nods in understanding. "I see." Watching everything unfold, Seo Jun deactivates his ability and thinks to himself that so far they don't seem like bad people. He then shifts his gaze toward the window and murmurs to himself, "I'll go check it out later." After a brief moment of thought, he adds, "I also need to talk to them. I want to ask if they'd be willing to help rescue other survivors from the nearby apartments." Before he can dwell on it further, a sudden system notification pops up. June blinks in surprise as the message appears before him. "You have successfully hunted a red tiger." A second notification follows immediately after. "You have gained a large amount of XP." Then another. 39,783,201 has been deposited into the Ultimate Shutin's wallet. And finally, one last message. "Your skill level has increased and you have acquired a new ability." June stares at the notifications, his eyes widening in shock. What just happened out there? He hadn't even been paying attention for that long. How could so much have changed in such a short time? Without hesitation, he forces himself to reactivate Ultimate Eyes, pushing his abilities to their limit despite the strain. Outside, the battlefield is far from calm. Han, the archer, and the guy with glasses are both lightly wounded. In front of them, the corpse of a massive red tiger lies motionless on the ground, and next to it, the werebear is also severely injured, struggling to move. The rest of the group stands frozen, unsure of what to do next. June observes everything, but a strange feeling creeps up on him. His stomach twists, and his chest tightens as a wave of unease washes over him. What the hell just happened? Suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through his body. His muscles spasm, cold sweat dripping down his face as an overwhelming pressure grips his chest. He groans in agony, barely able to keep himself upright. Then the system sends another notification. You have discovered individuals who are eligible to receive citizenship. Through the pain, June barely manages to process the message. There are still people who aren't citizens yet? His breathing is ragged, but he forces himself to speak. System, grant them citizenship. A new notification appears instantly. A list of names flashes across the screen. Citizenship has been granted. And then, another alert. You have officially reached 50 citizens. An additional message follows. The amount of XP and money that citizens can earn has increased by 100%. But the surprises don't stop there. A final notification appears on the screen, revealing something unexpected. As the number of citizens has reached a specific threshold, all citizens have unlocked a new ability, Power of Trust. June stares at the words mind racing. Power of Trust. What does that even mean? Despite his lingering confusion, his thoughts drift back to the battlefield. He clenches his jaw. Did anyone get seriously hurt? Back on the streets, we see Moon, slightly injured and gasping for breath, making a tremendous effort as he carries his grandmother on his back. Everyone else is also wounded, running desperately while providing cover for Toji, who is carrying the injured werbear woman. Observing this, June quickly realizes that the situation outside is far worse than he had imagined. And of all people to be seriously hurt, it had to be the werbear. As the group races to escape, a horde of goblins suddenly appears right in front of the two carrying the wounded. The team members covering them from behind immediately let loose a volley of arrows, striking down goblins to clear a path. The archer, watching closely, is startled by the precision of the man with glasses. How the hell did you pull that off with a single shot? She asks, eyes wide. The man looks just as confused. I honestly have no idea. As they continue running, the archer suddenly realizes something. For some reason, my body feels lighter. Han, running beside her, nods in agreement. Yeah. And I just noticed, I'm not even out of breath anymore. Meanwhile, back with June, the system finally provides an explanation. The ability Power of Trust is a passive skill that increases all stats by X%, where X equals the trust level of each citizen. Seo June stares at the message in disbelief. This skill didn't even exist before. How the hell is it so strong? Then, another realization hits him. Every single member of his group has at least 50 trust points or more. This means that all their stats, including stamina, strength, reflexes, and more, have naturally increased by 50%. At that very moment, Moon's expression shifts as if something suddenly clicks in his mind. He has a hunch. This must be another one of June's new abilities. The system then notifies June of something else. Both of the girls have now surpassed 30 loyalty points. As a result, they are now eligible to be registered as vassals. Without hesitation, Kim immediately commands the system to register both of them. The moment it happens, the two women suddenly stop in their tracks, their bodies tingling as an overwhelming power surges through them. The system follows up with an update. Kim Gaeong, now at level 20, has acquired the piercing ability. Yu Hyerin, now at level 25, has awakened the skill Poisonous Mist. Now, brimming with their newfound power, the two turn back, ready to face the goblins chasing them. The archer steadies herself, drawing her bow. She fires an arrow straight at the goblins. Normally, her shots always land as headshots, every single time. But this time, something is different. The arrow doesn't just pierce through one goblin, it ricochets off and strikes several others, piercing through them effortlessly. Confused, the archer furrows her brows. What the hell? What just happened? The system promptly provides an answer. The ability Piercing is a Tier C skill that uses mental strength to fire a penetrating arrow. June, standing with his arms crossed, watches as the information unfolds before him. Now that he knows what the ability is, he immediately issues a command to the system. Create a mission. A new quest pops up. The archer must use Piercing to hunt 10 goblins within a 10-minute time limit. Reward: increased piercing proficiency. Penalty for failure: fatigue. As he processes this, June shifts his attention to the other ability. Unlike piercing, this one seems far trickier. Poisonous Mist is a deadly attack, and while it's classified as a B-rank skill, using it incorrectly could endanger the entire team. June exhales sharply, deciding to deal with it later. I'll figure it out when the time comes. Just then, the system sends another notification. The archer has successfully completed the mission. 10 goblins eliminated. A new message follows. The maximum number of missions available for today has been reached. Evaluating. June sighs, unimpressed. The rewards weren't that great this time. But now that the battle outside has settled, he decides it's time to check on the citizens living on the lower floors. Activating ultimate eyes, he scans the corridors. His gaze locks onto the silhouette of a man walking calmly through the halls, his hands tucked into his pockets. June watches as the man heads toward the bathroom, likely to collect water. Smart. June notes that this man has good survival instincts. He's gathering water before supplies run low. Shifting his focus elsewhere, June spots another pair, a man and a woman sitting together, preparing to eat. He observes them for a moment, realizing something important. They're already capable of gathering food and water on their own. Then, in another part of the building, something unexpected catches his eye. A woman. She's lying motionless on the floor inside a room. Without a second thought, June bolts toward her. The system immediately provides an update. Kim De-jung. Trust level, 18. Ability, healing, awakened. June's heart pounds in his chest. Healing? His eyes dart between the system message and the unconscious woman on the floor. He reads the ability description. She can heal wounds. A surge of urgency floods through him. She's the first healer they've found, and they desperately need her. Without hesitation, June sprints forward. He has to help her, no matter what. After sprinting through the hallways, June finally arrives in front of the door to the room where the woman had collapsed. His breathing is still heavy from the run, but he quickly composes himself and reaches for the doorknob. Slowly, he tries to turn it, hoping to gain access without any trouble. However, to his surprise, the door is locked from the inside. A deep frown settles on his face as he realizes there is no way for him to open it from the outside. The sudden obstacle causes his shoulders to slump slightly, and he takes a step back, frustration creeping into his thoughts. But just as he starts to contemplate another course of action, something unexpected happens. His eyes widen momentarily as a new notification from the system appears before him. By sheer coincidence, or perhaps fate itself, he has just acquired a new skill. The system promptly displays its details. The ability is called Invisible Hand, and it is currently at level 1. According to the description, it allows him to summon and control an invisible hand at will. Reading the notification, a surge of newfound determination fills his chest. His grip tightens into fists as he mentally acknowledges the absurd but undeniable reality of his newfound power. Silently, he expresses his gratitude for this sudden stroke of fortune. Closing his eyes for a brief moment, June focuses his thoughts entirely on the locked door before him. He visualizes himself breaking the lock, willing it to yield under his command. When he finally opens his eyes, he is met with an unexpected yet welcome sight. Right before him, materialized out of shut-in energy, is a lock-breaking tool, a sturdy bolt cutter formed entirely of the same strange energy he has come to rely on. Without hesitation, he reaches forward, taking hold of the newly formed tool. The cold sensation of the manifested object in his grip confirms its existence. Without wasting another second, he positions it against the lock and applies pressure. A sharp snap echoes through the quiet hallway as the lock gives way effortlessly. With a swift motion, he pushes the door open and rushes inside. The moment he steps into the dimly lit room, his gaze immediately lands on the unmoving woman lying on the floor. Now that he is seeing her up close, the eerie stillness of her body makes the entire scene feel unsettling. June quickly kneels beside her, concern evident in his expression. Reaching out, he gently nudges her shoulder, his voice calm yet firm as he speaks. He asks if she can hear him, if she is all right, urging her to wake up. There is no response. A deep sense of unease washes over him. He carefully observes her condition, scanning for any visible injuries. But what he notices instead sends a wave of worry through him. Her face is unnaturally pale, her lips dry and cracked. Severe dehydration. His mind races. Dehydration this extreme could be dangerous. She needs help, immediately. He quickly shifts his attention to the surroundings, searching for anything that might assist in stabilizing her condition. His eyes dart around the room, taking in every detail. Then, something catches his attention, something that makes him pause, confusion flickering across his face. There is water in the room. Yet, despite the presence of water, she is still in this critical state. It makes no sense. The contradiction unsettles him, sending a cold shiver down his spine. Glancing back at the woman, he forces himself to push aside the troubling thoughts. Now is not the time to question the situation. The priority right now is saving her. A sudden idea forms in his mind. Without hesitation, he opens the system interface. There is a chance this might work. June quickly assigns her a mission, a simple yet crucial task. The mission objective: breathe. The reward: immediate recovery from dehydration. The system processes the command, deducting 10,000 won as the cost for activating the mission. Almost instantly, a soft blue aura begins to envelop the woman's body. June watches intently, his pulse quickening as the energy works through her. Then faint sounds escape her lips, a weak, breathy noise, but a clear sign that she is beginning to stir. Relief floods through him. It worked. Slowly, her eyelids flutter open, her gaze hazy and unfocused. A blurred silhouette of a figure stands before her, a voice reaching her ears, asking if she is awake. Her mind struggles to process the situation. Her voice, weak but laced with confusion, manages to form a question. Who is he? And why is he in her room? June straightens slightly, meeting her dazed gaze. He introduces himself, explaining that he lives in a unit just above hers in the building. She blinks, her expression still foggy with exhaustion. The information doesn't seem to register right away. Still lying on the floor, she questions him again, her voice laced with uncertainty. How did he get inside? June, seeing no reason to hide the truth, states it plainly. He tells her that he saw she was unwell and decided to enter, by force breaking the door open to reach her. A moment of silence lingers between them. Then her breath hitches. Her expression shifts as realization dawns. Without warning, tears begin streaming down her face. And yet she does not say a word. She simply cries as if the weight of everything she had been enduring had finally caught up with her. She raises her hands to her face, wiping away the tears in an attempt to hide her crying. Her shoulders tremble slightly as she struggles to compose herself. June, watching her closely, immediately senses that something is wrong. There is an uneasiness in the way she reacts, something beyond just exhaustion or confusion. Taking a deep breath, he calls her name, Kim De-jung, his voice firm yet gentle. As she slowly pushes herself up from the floor, still visibly shaken, he speaks again. He apologizes for being so abrupt, for barging into her life so suddenly, but he makes it clear that he needs her help. There is urgency in his tone, something that makes her pause despite her lingering distress. Now sitting upright, her tear-filled eyes meet his, though her expression remains guarded. Her lips, still cracked from dehydration, barely part as she listens to him speak. June wastes no time in explaining, one of his allies is severely injured. The words seem to take a moment to register. De-jung slowly turns her body toward him, staring as if trying to process what he just said. Silence stretches between them. She blinks, her mind racing, trying to make sense of his words. His ally? Someone severely injured? Why is he telling her this? She doesn't understand, she doesn't even know this man. Panic begins to rise in her chest. He wants her to save someone? Why her? Doubt and fear intertwine within her thoughts. Her hands tremble slightly as she lowers them to her lap. It seems impossible, an absurd request thrown at her out of nowhere. He's putting his faith in the wrong person. And then another realization strikes her like a bolt of lightning. How does he know she's a nurse? Her breath catches. She has never told him that. No one in this building should even know. A wave of unease washes over her, yet at the same time, something about the way he speaks, the way he asks for help, doesn't feel threatening. There is no malice in his words, no ill intent in his eyes. Still hesitant, still uncertain, she makes a decision. She has to see for herself. Slowly she turns to face him completely. Though suspicion lingers in her gaze, she swallows down her doubts and agrees to help. Her voice, though weak, carries a firm resolve as she asks where exactly she is supposed to go. June doesn't answer right away. Instead, he opens the system interface, his fingers moving swiftly across the translucent screen in front of him. He asks her to wait just a moment. He assigns her a mission, one that instructs her to use healing magic to cure the wounded werbear. The mission comes with a 1-hour time limit, a reward labeled as improved, and to his relief, no penalties. His eyes flicker with determination as he reads the details. He must save the werbear no matter what. Turning back to De-jung, he tells her that for now she should rest. He will personally bring the injured person to her. He then instructs her to find something to help with her own dehydration. But De-jung, already overwhelmed, barely has time to process his words before something utterly impossible happens. From seemingly nowhere, oranges begin to materialize in midair. Her eyes widen in pure shock, her breath hitching as she watches several bright oranges fall from the void and land in front of her. For a long moment she simply stares, her mouth slightly open, completely stunned. Then, snapping out of her daze, she frantically raises a shaking finger, pointing at the fruit on the floor. "What is this?" Her voice trembles as she demands an answer. June, realizing how bizarre this must seem to her, quickly apologizes. But Dejung isn't satisfied. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears as she watches more oranges drop into existence. Where are these coming from? How is this happening? What kind of person is this man? Before she can demand further explanations, June simply turns his back to her. A slight smirk plays on his lips as he tells her, he'll explain everything later, once things have calmed down. And with that he walks away. Leaving her still kneeling on the floor, still staring in disbelief, he exits the room with a final request. He reminds her that she is still weak, that her body needs to recover, and he insists, that she prioritize her own rest. As soon as June is gone, Dejung lowers her gaze to the scattered oranges. Slowly she reaches out, picking one up. The texture, the weight, the coolness against her fingertips. It all feels real. She squeezes the fruit gently, expecting it to vanish like an illusion, but it remains solid in her grasp. A shiver runs down her spine. What is this? Still overwhelmed, she hesitantly mutters to herself, wondering if she's dreaming. Because never, in her life has she seen anything like this before. Meanwhile, June wastes no time. He rushes back to his shut-in apartment, moving with quick, determined strides. His mind is already focused on helping his allies outside as fast as possible. The system chimes with a notification. The healer's trust level has increased. He stops for a brief moment, narrowing his eyes at the message. She hadn't trusted him before. That much was obvious. But now, it seems like her perception of him has changed, even if only slightly. Still, it isn't enough for him to let his guard down. Trust takes time. And honestly, he can't blame her. If someone broke into his home out of nowhere, he wouldn't trust them either. Shaking his head, he steps onto the balcony, his gaze drifting downward. His thoughts remain heavy, but as he looks out toward the streets below, something makes his entire body freeze. His blood runs cold. A massive, ferocious red tiger is charging through the streets, its powerful limbs propelling it forward with terrifying speed. And it's chasing his allies. June's breath catches as he sees his companions below, running for their lives. Desperation is evident in the way they scramble to escape, but the monstrous beast closes in on them, its deadly fangs gleaming under the dim light. Then, as if things couldn't get any worse, its piercing eyes fixed on its targets, its muscular body moving in perfect synchrony as it hunts his team. A wave of panic washes over June. This isn't just a dangerous situation. This is a massacre waiting to happen. June stood frozen in shock as he took in the sight before him. There wasn't just one red tiger. Another had appeared, a second ferocious beast, separate from the one that had already fought the Werbear woman and left her gravely wounded. Down below, chaos continued to unfold. The massive red tiger prowled menacingly, striking fear into the hearts of the remaining group members, who were now running desperately, not daring to look back. Fear gripped them entirely, their survival instincts pushing them forward. Amidst the frantic escape, Harem, the girl who had received the power of poison, misstepped. Her foot twisted unnaturally, and pain exploded through her leg as she collapsed onto the hard ground. A sharp, involuntary cry of agony tore from her throat. Both the archer woman and Han immediately stopped in their tracks, their faces contorted with panic. Their eyes darted back to her, calling out her name with pure desperation. Gritting her teeth, Harem struggled to push herself up, trying to fight through the pain. But her body was already beyond exhaustion, her limbs heavy, refusing to obey her will. No matter how much she willed herself to move, she couldn't. The archer's voice rang out through the air, a raw scream of distress. Because the enormous red tiger was already preparing to strike. Its muscles coiled, eyes locked onto Harem like a predator savoring its helpless prey. It was ready to devour her, its powerful body lunging forward just as she finally managed to stagger back onto her feet. But she had yet to realize how dangerously close the beast truly was. Her mind was occupied by something else, perhaps a last-ditch plan or sheer disbelief at her predicament. Then at last she turned her head. And in that instant she understood. The beast was right there. The realization hit her like a tidal wave, crashing down and swallowing her whole. A cruel truth settled into her bones: there was no escape. For a brief, soul-crushing moment she stopped resisting. The fight drained from her eyes and she surrendered to the inevitable. She stood still, bracing for the end, waiting for the red tiger's jaws to clamp down and rip her apart. And then, in a sudden flash of light and violet smoke, she was gone. The tiger's gaping maw snapped shut on empty air. A growl rumbled deep in its throat, confusion flickering through its burning eyes. It didn't understand what had just happened. A heartbeat ago, its prey had been right there. And now, vanished. The frustration of the failed kill sent the beast into a deeper fury. At the same moment, Harem reappeared, disoriented, drenched in sweat, her breath ragged and uneven. Her mind reeled as she tried to comprehend what had just occurred. Had she died? Was this the afterlife? Pain surged through her limbs, sharp and unrelenting, reminding her that she was still very much alive. That was when she saw him. June. He was standing there watching her closely. It had been too close. A fraction of a second later and she wouldn't have survived. The weight of that realization pressed down on him. Harem, still trembling, looked up at him, but no words came. She was too exhausted, too overwhelmed to speak. Meanwhile, outside, the others were still running for their lives. June took a deep breath, his mind racing. At the very least, he had bought them some time. One less person in immediate danger meant the group below had a slightly better chance of escaping. Then his system screen flashed with a new notification. He had discovered individuals who met the criteria to be granted citizenship. The system prompted him: did he wish to approve their citizenship? Before he could process this, another sudden movement caught his eye. Moon appeared, using his teleportation ability to warp into the apartment, carrying his grandmother in his arms. As soon as he landed, he turned to June, his expression frantic. His breathing was unsteady, but his grip on the elderly woman remained firm as he pleaded for June to take care of her. June glanced at Moon, then at the frail woman in his arms. The concern in Moon's eyes was unmistakable, but June's mind was already occupied with something far more urgent. Raising a hand, he told Moon to wait. There was a bigger problem right now. Moon parted his lips, ready to argue, ready to demand an explanation. But then he looked at June's face, at the seriousness in his expression, and he understood. Whatever June was dealing with, it was far worse than he had realized. Without another word, Moon nodded. He could tell that, at this moment, his grandmother was not the priority. Down below, the relentless red tiger was still in pursuit, refusing to let up. It chased the remaining group members without mercy, its predatory instincts fully awakened. June clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. He needed to act. Activating his new ability, Invisible Hand, he made a decision. That tiger needed to die, and he had to find a way to kill it. Down in the streets, the archer, Han, and Togi, who was still carrying the injured werbear, kept running. But no matter how hard they pushed themselves, the red tiger was catching up. Han risked a glance over his shoulder, his stomach twisting with dread. If this continued, they were all going to be devoured. He had to do something. Instinct took over. Without a second thought, Han skidded to a stop, planting his foot firmly on the ground. His fingers tightened around one of his baseballs. His heart pounded in his chest as he raised his arm, channeling everything he had into one throw. A faint blue glow began to radiate around him, intensifying with each passing second. He poured everything into it. Then, he hurled the ball with all the force he could muster. It soared through the air, cutting through the night like a bullet. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, it would hit. But in the blink of an eye, the tiger dodged. The ball shot past it, colliding uselessly with the ground. A low, guttural growl rumbled through the air. Then, the red tiger threw back its head and roared, a deafening sound that reverberated through the city streets, a declaration of its dominance. The archer's voice rang out in terror as she screamed for Han, begging him to run. But it was too late. The red tiger, eyes gleaming with lethal intent, lunged at him. Teeth bared, claws outstretched. Han gritted his teeth, knowing he was out of time. There was nothing he could do to stop it. But there was one thing he could still do. A single desperate choice. He turned his head and shouted for his friends to keep running. Then, without hesitation, he broke into a full sprint in the opposite direction. If he could lead the tiger away, even if it cost him his life, then at least the others might make it out alive. His chest heaved. His legs burned. Every step was fueled by sheer willpower. But deep down he knew. This could be the end for him. And still he ran. As he approached a parking lot, hoping against all odds that goblins or some other kind of monster would appear to distract the red tiger. Han continued to run with all the strength he had left. But once again the relentless beast was far too close behind him. It was undeniable now, this was truly the end for him. While sprinting, he risked a glance over his shoulder, his breath catching in his throat as he took in the sight of the enormous glistening fangs of the red tiger. They were massive, sharp, and deadly, a testament to the inevitable doom that awaited him. At that moment, his gaze locked with the tiger's, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. This was it. There was no escape. His fate was sealed. Just when all hope seemed lost, when every fiber of his being prepared to accept his tragic demise, something unexpected happened. A strange, pulsating purple force suddenly materialized and coiled tightly around the red tiger's neck. It appeared out of nowhere, wrapping around the beast with a speed and intensity that defied comprehension. In an instant, the force pulled downward with such overwhelming strength that the tiger's head was violently slammed into the ground. The impact was so powerful that the very pavement beneath them cracked and shattered, sending debris flying in every direction. The tiger let out a guttural snarl of frustration, struggling against the mysterious force. Its powerful limbs instinctively clawed at the ground, attempting to regain stability, but the unseen energy was relentless. Slowly, its paws began to lift off the ground, its body suspended as if an invisible hand were hoisting it up. The purple force continued to constrict, tightening mercilessly around the tiger's throat, squeezing the life out of the monstrous creature. It was unmistakable. This wasn't a natural occurrence. This was someone's doing. And Han, still frozen in shock from witnessing the impossible, knew exactly whose work this was. There was no doubt in his mind, this was Jun's power. Moments later, the archer woman and the bespectacled man arrived at the scene, their breaths ragged from the exhausting chase. They had rushed there, fearing for Han's safety, but what they found left them momentarily speechless. Their eyes widened in disbelief as they beheld the red tiger, still writhing in agony, its body dangling helplessly as the mysterious force continued to choke the life out of it. As the archer took in the scene, a system screen suddenly appeared before her, glowing softly in the dim light. She hesitated for a brief moment before focusing her attention on the text displayed before her. Her expression shifted almost instantly. Her eyes widened in shock as she absorbed the information. Then, as though gaining a newfound sense of understanding, she took a deep breath, regaining her composure. With a newfound calmness, she turned to her companions and without hesitation, stepped forward. High above, watching the events unfold from his vantage point, Jun observed everything with sharp, calculating eyes. There was no need for him to intervene any further. He had already done what was necessary. Now, as long as Gaoung, the archer, landed the final blow, he would receive 4 times the loot. Below, the red tiger, still trapped and gasping for air, thrashed desperately in a futile attempt to escape. But its fate was already sealed. The archer, understanding the significance of this moment, took her time, preparing what would be her most crucial shot yet. The tiger's fiery gaze turned to her, desperation evident in its glowing eyes. It was pleading for mercy, seeking even the faintest glimmer of hope for survival. But the woman standing before it held no sympathy. Her expression was one of cold resolve. Mercy was not an option, not for this wretched beast. She pulled back the string of her bow, channeling an intense blue aura into her arrow. The pressure emanating from the charged shot was immense, causing the very air around them to tremble. Then with a swift, decisive motion she released the arrow. A powerful gust of wind exploded outward as the arrow soared through the air, its force cutting through the night like a spear of vengeance. The instant it found its mark, a system notification flashed before Jun's eyes. You have successfully hunted a level 28 red tiger. You have gained a significant amount of experience points. 62,311,776 one has been deposited into your shut-in wallet. As the tiger's body collapsed lifelessly onto the ground, another notification appeared, this one highlighting the growing dynamics among the group. Team trust and loyalty levels have increased. Another notification followed shortly after. Han's loyalty level has exceeded 30. He now meets the requirements to be registered as a vassal. A satisfied smile played on Jun's lips. Everything had gone exactly as planned. He nodded to himself before selecting the prompt to accept Han's registration as his vassal. A few moments later, the scene shifted to another part of the building where someone was being healed. It was the healer, the woman who had previously collapsed in exhaustion within one of the rooms. Now fully conscious, she focused her energy, her hands glowing faintly as she tended to the wounded. The injuries of the others faded rapidly under her care, not even leaving scars behind. The first person she prioritized was the Werbear woman, whose body had suffered severe damage during the brutal encounter with the red tiger. June, watching from afar, reflected on the sheer luck they all had, him included, in having found a healer in a situation like this. Han approached, still catching his breath. Without wasting any time, June turned to him and asked what had happened below, particularly why the red tigers had suddenly appeared. Han, his voice still carrying traces of exhaustion and gratitude, explained that the location where Moon's grandmother's house had once stood was likely a territory belonging to the red tigers. They had managed to take one down, but another had soon appeared, proving that the area was far more dangerous than they had initially assumed. Hearing this, June processed the information carefully. It made sense. There was no reason to believe that only goblins would inhabit this region. And now that he thought about it, there hadn't been any goblins in this area. That meant the goblins had probably already invaded the buildings nearby. If that was the case, Moon's grandmother wouldn't have been safe if she had remained inside. Despite everything, the only reason she had survived was that she had unknowingly been within the red tiger's territory. June exhaled slowly, shaking his head. The sheer luck involved in this entire ordeal was truly something extraordinary. Just then, another system notification appeared before him. Healer's performance is being evaluated. 73,312 has been deducted for the mission. The healer let out a relieved sigh upon realizing that her task had been successfully completed. Seeing her reaction, June stepped forward and acknowledged her efforts, telling her that she had done a great job. However, she quickly waved off his praise and instead asked if she could finally return home. Before anyone could respond, a voice interrupted. Wait a moment. It was Fatty, who had finally reappeared after spending some time resting and recovering from the ordeal. Scratching the back of his head, he looked around awkwardly before addressing the group. I know this might not be the best time to bring this up, but are you guys seriously planning on gathering in my apartment all the time? June turned his attention to Fatty and, for the first time, truly took in the number of people currently occupying the space. The realization dawned on him, and at that moment, everyone around them wore equally amused and sheepish expressions. With a small chuckle, June reassured him. There was no need to worry, he had already made arrangements. Unit 2901 was currently unoccupied. Electricity, water, and every other necessity for daily life would be provided, and they were free to live there. Upon hearing this, the entire group erupted in joy. He also calls out to Dabin and informs her that Units 2101 and 2102 are currently unoccupied as well. June states that he will ensure that electricity is supplied to those units and requests that she notify the other survivors, letting them know they can use the bathrooms and showers in those apartments. Upon hearing this, Dabin and her brother exchange glances before nodding in agreement, assuring him that they will take care of it. June then adds that out of the two available units, Dabin and her brother are welcome to claim one for themselves. The unexpected offer leaves both of them stunned, their jaws practically dropping in disbelief. June, however, remains composed and instructs them to inform the other survivors that they may take the remaining unit. After settling that, June shifts the conversation to another matter, saying that he has a favor to ask. Dabin, still somewhat taken aback, encourages him to go ahead and say what he needs. Without hesitation, June states that he wants her to become the messenger between himself and the rest of the survivors. The moment those words leave his mouth, Dabin pauses, furrowing her brows in confusion. She repeats his request, asking if she heard him correctly. Did he really mean messenger? June, completely serious, confirms it. He then lays out the details of his plan, instructing her to inform everyone that whichever team manages to eliminate 100 goblins the fastest will be rewarded with an empty unit of their own. Furthermore, he emphasizes that in addition to securing a place to live, the winning team will also receive essential supplies, unlimited electricity, running water, gas, and food, ensuring their survival and comfort. But there's more. June goes on to clarify that if the team agrees to take in 10 additional survivors, those individuals will also be granted access to the same benefits. For a brief moment, the atmosphere in the room grows heavy with tension. The weight of June's words settles over them, and everyone seems to grasp the implications of what he is proposing. Then, as if anticipating concerns, June adds one final note. He instructs Dabin to make sure she informs them that the distribution of these benefits may take longer depending on which floor their new residence is located. As he watches their reactions, June contemplates his next move. From this point forward, he realizes, Every decision will be like moving pieces in a strategic game of chess. Only those who prove their worth will receive the resources they need. At that moment, a system notification appears before him. A new quest materializes, an official mission to hunt down goblins. The quest has a strict time limit of 168 hours, a modest reward of experience points, and a harsh penalty for failure, being barred from using any shared facilities. A final message flashes before his eyes. Will you grant this quest? Yes or no?
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see another part. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time!